The rich heiress received a package. Her best friend helped her open it. Oh my god, where did this cheap junk come from? She held up the fake Jordans with sheer disgust. The moment when Kinyu saw that pile, her face went completely pale. She collapsed back into her chair. Her hands holding the papers began to shake. Her best friend asked, "Are you okay? Is this junk hurting your eyes? I'll have my assistant throw it out right now." When Kinyu stared at the pile, tearing up, "Don't throw it out. He knows. He's leaving me." She was too ashamed to tell her friend that this pile of cheap items was every gift she'd given her boyfriend over 3 years. The most expensive thing in there. It was probably a bottle of perfume, a free sample she got buying her own haute couture. She hid her wealthy background to date me. For 3 years, she lived a double life. When she was with me, she acted like a poor girl who couldn't even afford a 10-yuan bowl of ramen. But behind my back, she spent thousands on casual dinners for others. She watched me work myself to the bone, working 2 jobs to pay her fake debts. I lived on cheap instant noodles and hauled 50-pound water jugs for cash. It's not like she never wanted to tell me, to finally give me a life of luxury. But every time she was about to, she chickened out. What if my feelings for her changed? What if I started clinging to her like other guys? So she kept dragging it out until today. I was at the mall today, watching her pick out clothes for some guy, patiently helping him, piece by piece. I never knew when Kinyu had this much patience. With me, she never bought a single thing. She would only window shop from the entrance. I knew this mall was incredibly expensive, but sometimes I still wanted to look around, not to buy anything, just window shopping. But I was always too intimidated, terrified they'd see I couldn't afford a thing. Later, once when Kinyu got a stable job and started making a decent living, I brought up visiting that mall a few times, but every single time, she quickly changed the subject. Eventually I realized she simply didn't want to go. Today, a friend asked me to stop by this very mall to pick up a watch he had left there for servicing. Right after grabbing the watch, I turned around and saw Kinyu with another guy. I watched her carefully picking out clothes for him, gently helping him try them on. He just stood there, smiling. In that moment, I felt completely numb, staring blankly at her from just a short distance away, trying to find some hint of a misunderstanding in her eyes. But instead, I saw him barely even try the outfit on, before discarding it. Then, with a casual wave of her hand, she swiped her card and bought them all. Just like that, he walked away with a mountain of designer clothes. The sales assistants nearby whispered in pure disbelief. "Those clothes cost over 100,000 yuan, over 100,000 bucks. We've been together for 3 years. And yet, the things she bought for me maxed out at barely 100 yuan. Just a while back, my part-time job was late paying my wages. I had absolutely nothing on my cafeteria card for 2 whole days. She only loaded 100 yuan after noticing I was starving. But here she was, dropping 100,000 on a stranger, buying things she always dismissed as cheap, useless vanity. My eyes burned just watching them. I couldn't bear to look at the perfect little couple anymore. I turned and walked right out, heading to a cheap wet market 2 subway stops away. At 9:30 p.m. I heard her keys rattling in the lock. When Kinyu walked in and flipped the switch, he slipped into his slippers and took a few steps, before spotting me, lying right there on the sofa. "Why didn't you make a sound?" I hid my thoughts and smiled. "Why are you so late? I've been waiting for you for so long." When Kinyu paused, his hand freezing on his coat. Then, acting completely normal, he explained, "The flight was delayed." Suddenly a thought hit me. Maybe his past flights were never actually delayed after all. Maybe he was actually spending time with someone else. I cut off my train of thought and didn't ask. I just told him to wash up for dinner. When Kinyu gave an apologetic, slightly placating smile. "Actually, I already ate on the plane." But then, as if worried I would be upset, he quickly added, "But I'd love some of your homemade soup." I smelled it the second I walked in. It must be amazing. In the past I would have rushed to ladle him a bowl. I would have prepared it perfectly and served it myself. But this time, I didn't even budge. Instead, I unzipped his suitcase and sorted his dirty clothes. I didn't even look up at him. "The soup is in the kitchen. Go get it yourself." When Kinyu watched me unpack his luggage, for once, he didn't seem annoyed. He just got up to serve himself. Usually, when he had soup, he liked a lot of cilantro and green onions. Normally I would have carefully chopped them up and set them nicely in a small bowl. But today, all the herbs were still in the bag. I hadn't even taken them out. The cilantro roots were still covered in dirt. In the pot, the chicken soup had been simmered to perfection. The broth was rich, thick, and not greasy at all, except for one thing. It was cold. When Kinyu instantly lost his appetite. He had already eaten quite a lot today. Looking at the greasy soup now only made him feel nauseous. He turned around and poured himself a glass of water. He went to the bedroom to find me, but spotted a shopping bag on the coffee table. It was a solid black paper bag, with a white designer logo printed on it. This is a top-tier luxury jewelry brand. Even their cheapest items cost thousands of dollars. When Kinyu felt his heart sink, he picked up the bag and opened it. An exquisite watch lay quietly inside the box. It clearly cost a fortune. I walked out of the bedroom. I was holding the dirty clothes he'd changed out of. I saw Wen Qianyu holding my friend's watchbox. My first instinct was to explain, but my mind flashed to him and that other guy being together. I swallowed the words right back down. Instead, I asked him, "Is it nice? I think this watch is really beautiful." Wen Qianyu's brow furrowed deeply. The look in his eyes grew cold. He didn't even ask who gave it to me. That accusing look alone told me I didn't deserve such an expensive watch. He looked at me with a frown and demanded, "How can you take someone else's things? People will only look down on you like this. This is way too expensive. Give it back to them right now." He looked at me like some kept toy boy who only cared about money. I just smiled and didn't bother explaining. Instead, I said, "It's a birthday gift. It's not like they're pursuing me. Why should I return it? Taking things makes people look down on me. But he gives that other guy so much. Isn't he worried people will look down on him?" Thinking of this, I gave him a cold glance. "If you want the soup, just heat it up. I left the food out for you. It's late. I need to get back to school." With that, I took the watch from his hands and put it back in the box. Just as I was walking out, I paused and explained, "The other watch belongs to my roommate. I'm just taking it back for him." When Qianyu knew he had misjudged me, she quickly ran up to me, calling out, "Jung-chun, I am not doubting you." With that, she grabbed my arm, trying to pull me back, her voice soft. "I just got back, and I am exhausted. I am not upset with you, but you shouldn't have misled me on purpose. I'm sorry. We haven't seen each other in so long. Can we please not fight like this?" I did not talk back, but I silently gave in, letting her lead me inside, as if I didn't care at all about how she had just accused me. Traveling back is not exhausting. What was exhausting was spending the whole day shopping with her new boyfriend. Seeing that I was not angry, when Qianyu finally felt relieved and pulled me toward the bedroom, "I brought you a gift from Paris. You are going to love it." I followed behind her without saying a single word. When I was looking through her suitcase earlier, I noticed that inside her luggage, there was a luxury brand green box sitting inside. Inside the box, there was a tie. I had opened it to look, but I did not touch the tie itself, and just placed it right back where it was, because I was simply not sure if that item was meant for me. What if it was just something her new boyfriend forgot to take? But at this moment I was absolutely certain that tie was for me. Something bought in France had to be worth a decent amount of money. It seemed like my treatment was finally being upgraded. Following her into the bedroom, when Qianyu rummaged through her suitcase for a moment, and out of the pile of clothes, she pulled out a very plain, inconspicuous black box. She smiled as she handed it to me. "Happy birthday, boyfriend." The box was tiny and looked quite delicate. I stared down at that tiny box, but what I saw instead was my own heart, being sliced wide open with a smile by Wen Qianyu today. The box containing that expensive belt was still sitting safely inside her suitcase, without even being covered up, shamelessly displaying its expensive value right in front of my face. I forced a smile. A wave of bitterness hit me. I figured it was a bottle of perfume or something like that. The brand. Same counter where I saw Wen Qianyu earlier today. Should I thank her for remembering me while she was busy with someone else? Or should I feel pathetic, knowing I didn't even get a tie? When Qianyu noticed I wasn't thrilled, "I handpicked this bottle myself. French perfumes are very famous. Give it a try. If you like it, I'll bring back a different scent next time. I don't wear perfume. I can't stand the smell." But when Qianyu knew that, yet here she was, gifting me a bottle. "Thanks, but I have to head back to campus. It's getting late." I turned to leave. I had to get out of that house. The air inside felt heavy. I was suffocating. My birthday was over. Luckily, I managed to catch the last bus. By the time I got back to the dorm, it was past 10. I kept the bottle of perfume. I just didn't want to argue with Wen Qianyu anymore, so I insisted on heading back to campus. I had no intention of staying overnight. She offered to drive me back. I told her she must be exhausted from her business trip. She needed to get some rest. Since she had work tomorrow, our dorm was a private suite. My roommates were still wide awake. Seeing me walk in, my roommate, Lin Feng, grinned with a knowing smirk. "Something's not right. Today's your birthday, and your girlfriend just got back from abroad. It's the perfect night to celebrate together. So why are you back here? Curfew is at 11. Where else would I go?" As I spoke, I pulled out the bag with the watch for Song Ming. "Here's your watch. Take a look. See if it is okay." I handed the bag over to Song Ming. Song Ming Yu opened it and took a quick look. Then he casually tossed it onto his desk. Luo Hao looked at me with a grin. "So, what birthday gift did your girlfriend bring back from France? Do not hide it. Let us see it too." I placed the black paper box in my hand on the table. "Yeah, here it is." With that, I turned and walked to the balcony. I needed to gather my dried laundry from today. Ling Feng was always the most impatient one. He went straight ahead and opened the box. Inside, there was an elegant glass bottle. A faint scent wafted out. It was perfume. "She brought back perfume for you. But I thought you do not wear perfume." Luo Hao looked rather confused as well. "She went to the fashion capital and only got perfume." Luo Hao and Song Mingyu glanced at each other. Song Mingyu picked up the perfume and unpacked it. He gave it a quick spritz into the air. The scent was quite subtle, but it was not something a guy like me would wear. Song Ming-yu calmly put the perfume bottle back where it was. He picked up the paper box and flipped it. There was a tiny trace of glue left on the bottom. It was clearly the mark of a torn-off price tag. Song Ming-yu frowned. He tossed the box back onto the table. A poor guy like you cannot afford nice things. You should just keep this to look at by yourself. Do not wear it out and make people laugh. A loser like you does not deserve nice perfume. Ling Feng hated his attitude. Why are you talking like that? Luo Hao nodded in agreement. Even he thought Song Ming-yu had crossed a line. Song Ming-yu smirked with pure disdain. He scoffed. I am only speaking the truth. If you do not deserve nice things, do not force it. Otherwise, people will just look down on you. Lin Feng was so pissed he wanted to snap back, but Luo Hao held him back. Knowing Song Ming-yu came from money, and his temper was incredibly blunt, he never cared about sparing anyone else's feelings. But honestly, his cheap shots didn't bother me at all. I just smiled and calmly spoke up. I wear cheap 10 yuan cotton tees, after all. So yeah, I really don't deserve perfume this nice. Besides, I don't even wear the stuff anyway. Lin Feng and Luo Hao tried to defend me, but I just shook my head. This wasn't the first time he'd told me I didn't measure up. But today, I actually think he was right. On my bus ride back earlier, I had searched online during the ride. The tie-in Saigwen Kanyu's box was a classic designer piece, but it wasn't for me. It was most likely bought for that other guy, and he simply forgot to take it with him. I collapsed back onto my bed, staring at the perfume bottle resting by my pillow. Its frosted surface was adorned with elegant, delicate patterns. It was small, yet oozing sophistication from every angle. Song Ming-yu was right. I don't deserve her. She can wear designer brands, shopping at luxury malls with another guy, dropping 100,000 yuan with a casual wave of a hand, without even blinking an eye. But when she came back to me, to see me, she had already changed into a cheap, ordinary work uniform. Every little detail pointed to our inevitable end. I only deserved to see her in her work clothes. I only belonged in the noisy, chaotic wet markets, haggling over to yuan. I never stood a chance with a tie worth thousands of yuan. So, what was this bottle of perfume actually worth? I had no idea. I couldn't shake those afternoon scenes from my mind. I stared at my phone, not a single WeChat message, when Qianyu hadn't even bothered to ask if I made it back to the dorm safely. As the clock struck midnight, the numbers reset to 0. And just like that, my birthday was over. Maybe Qianyu and I are resetting to 0, too. Woke up at 9 a.m. Class at 10. At noon, I got birthday gifts from Lin Feng and Luo Hao, an electric shaver, and a new hoodie. I had headed out early yesterday, bypassing the dorm entirely, so I only got their presents today. Nothing fancy, but incredibly practical for me. I absolutely love them. No afternoon classes, so I studied in the library. My phone stayed completely silent all day. No calls came in from Q, and I didn't reach out to him either. Honestly, I barely even thought of him. It was like yesterday never even happened. Before, if I missed his call during class, he'd run straight to my classroom to find me. Now, a whole day and night without a single text. That night, the four of us hit the cafeteria. Song Ming-yu was picking at his food, complaining that the cafeteria food was utterly tasteless. These ribs don't even have any meat. He suggested we grab a proper meal at the mall tomorrow. Usually, when my roommates planned these outings, I'd skip them because of my part-time job. But today, staring at the perfume on my desk, I finally nodded and agreed to join them. Bright and early the next morning, we took a bus downtown to hang out. The restaurant Ming-yu wanted to try was right on the 6th floor of that mall. The price and vibe definitely matched his rich kid lifestyle. While they went to look at phones, I slipped away and headed over to the counter. Qianyu had taken that guy too. The perfume he gave me yesterday was from this exact brand. The sales assistant happened to be the same woman from before. She walked up giving me a warm, friendly smile. Completely unfazed by my worn-out jeans and beat-up sneakers. The brand had so many different scents, and I couldn't find the one he'd given me. I don't even know how to describe it. For a moment I was completely lost. Song Ming-yu came over, not even sparing me a glance. He casually picked out a piece of clothing to try. Looking satisfied, he said he would take them all. He asked to see their latest new arrival perfume and wanted one of those. He looked up, wearing a snobbish, condescending look. He cast a quick, disgusted glance my way. His extravagant spending felt like a mockery of my embarrassment. The sales clerk smiled apologetically at me as she started wrapping up his clothes. She explained that she was very sorry, but they hadn't released any new perfumes lately. She asked if he could be mistaken. Song Ming-yu frowned, saying it was impossible. He insisted he had seen the black box, and it even had patterns on it. The sales clerk suddenly realized. She explained that the one he meant was a free gift. Once a member's points reach 100,000, they receive a free bottle of that perfume. She added that this specific perfume, specially formulated for the domestic market, it is only available here. They don't even stock it abroad. As she spoke, she actually sounded quite proud. Song Ming-yu acted like he finally got it. No wonder. So he told her to check his points. He had the sales associate look up his points. I was left standing there, completely frozen. When Kenyu went to France and returned on my actual birthday to please some other guy while shopping, he gave me a free gift as a birthday present. He even lied, saying it was from France. He didn't even bother to pick out a real gift for me. Turns out I only deserved a free giveaway. While the sales clerk checked his points, Song Ming-yu started chatting her up. He complained that he was still so far off, and his friends would mock him forever. Talk about embarrassing. Song Ming-yu knew his points weren't enough to redeem anything. He looked completely deflated. Then, he asked tentatively, "Can you check my friend Wen's points? How many points does she have? I need to work harder. I have to beat her to keep him happy as a valuable new customer." The sales associate whispered, "Ms. Wen Keanu has spent over 1.1 million, 1.14 million. That was a number I couldn't even dream of. Back in my hometown, that kind of money could buy a really nice house." I felt so pathetic. Years ago, Keanu was badly hurt in a car crash. Things were really bad then. The medical bills left us in massive debt. When we were together, I worked endless part-time jobs to pay it off. I worked extra shifts, stretching one meal card to feed us both. Later on, her situation improved, but behind my back, she spent over $1 million buying clothes for someone else. Her spending started 4 years ago and never stopped since. My meal card fed her, while she casually blew tens of thousands on another guy. I was incredibly blind. Only now did I realize why, after she started her internship, our living conditions never got any better. That was why Song Ming-gu paid and left with his shopping bags, pretending he didn't even know me. But I didn't care and followed him out. At the lounge, he threw the bags right at me. He glared, "Take it. Don't get the wrong idea. Those two both got you birthday gifts. If it looks like I didn't give you anything, being left out would suck. Besides, I can easily afford this pocket change. Don't say I'm looking down on you. The freebie boxes from that brand always have labels on the bottom, and your perfume box had some leftover glue on the bottom. Anyone who knows the brand would know it was a promotional gift." Song Ming-yu looked totally dismissive. He curled his lip in disgust. "Only a clueless country bumpkin like you wouldn't know any better. All you ever do is keep your head down at work, handing all your hard-earned money over to someone else. Letting a woman trick you like that." His words were harsh, but he was absolutely right. I smiled bitterly. Song Ming-gu had noticed it all along. That was why he helped me ask about the perfume and looked into Wen Qianyu's membership points and visit times. I knew he wasn't actually a bad guy. I nodded at him. "Thanks, just think of it as me doing some charity work." Song Ming-yu just shrugged it off, looking terrified that I might try to repay him. He got up and went over to Lin Feng's group. By the time we got back to campus, it was dinner time. They wanted to grab dinner together before parting ways, but I had a gaming gig to run at 11 p.m. That was when my thoughts drifted back to Wen Qianyu. I felt a sharp sting of pain, but looking ahead to my future, I realized I wouldn't have to hurt like this anymore. A spark of hope returned. No more supporting another person. Every single cent I earned would finally make my life a little easier. When Kanul can run off with her new boyfriend for all I care. Obsessing over what I lost just isn't my style. The Westgate is right next to the night market. It gets packed with people every single evening. Mostly couples out for a stroll, and there was Wen Qianyu standing right outside the gate, watching the rest of us walk toward her. Jiang Shun Wen Qianyu called out softly, not seeing me for 2 days. She thought I looked happy. She assumed the drama from the other day had already blown over. The knot in Wen Qianyu's stomach finally eased up. This was Song Mingyu's first time laying eyes on her. He nudged me with his shoulder, silently gesturing for me to look her way. I shifted the bags in my hand, taking over the shopping bags I'd just bought. Then I followed Lin Feng and Luo Hao inside. My 3 roommates, Luo Hao and the others went in first. None of them greeted Qianyu the entire time, acting like they didn't even know her. Qianyu did the exact same thing. Lin Feng and Luo Hao were no exception. I had never actually introduced Qianyu to them. A few times I invited her to join us for dinner, but she always made excuses about being busy. My roommates didn't care about a free meal anyway. At this moment, pretending to be strangers was best. Still reeling from the shock of that perfume today, I went and bought myself several new outfits this afternoon. I walked up to Qianyu without a single shred of guilt. No matter if she calls me wasteful or says I don't know how to manage money, I finally have the confidence to look her in the eye. Seeing me approach, Qianyu gave me a warm smile. She gently took the shopping bags from my hands, with absolutely no annoyance about me spending money. "Why didn't you answer my calls? You had me worried sick for so long." I pulled out my phone. It was 3 p.m. There was a WeChat message from Qianyu asking what I was up to, saying she wanted some of my home cooking. I hadn't replied. A few missed calls had come in shortly after that. My phone was on silent, so I completely missed them. I was busy at the mall asking about that perfume back then, but I chose not to mention that to her. "Just out shopping with my roommates," I replied. "Why are you working a part-time job again? I have a solid income now. Didn't we agree that I'd take care of you?" Ever since Qianyu got promoted, she hated seeing me struggle with part-time jobs, worrying it would ruin my grades. so she made me stop working during my free time. For the past 6 months, I actually did focus on school, keeping my grades up. I shook my head and told her it was nothing. The night shift is actually pretty short. It pays 200 yuan for 4 hours. That means 6,000 yuan a month in income. I thought the pay was actually pretty decent. I quietly calculated the gap between 6,000 and 100,000. Even with 6,000 yuan coming in, I still could not bring myself to buy the cheapest item from that brand. Just a single shirt, when Qianyu must have noticed something was off. She asked if the allowance she gave me was not enough. I can give you some more. I waved my hand and said it was fine. It is enough for me. Among couples in college, you rarely see a girlfriend giving her boyfriend an allowance. The fact that she even thought of buying me a watch was a lot, but the money she gave me was only enough for my daily meals and groceries to cook for her. There was never a single extra dollar left to buy myself anything. Plus, I was too proud to ever complain about being broke. So when Qianyu naturally assumed the money she gave was plenty, after living like this for a while, my personal savings were almost entirely wiped out. And after facing that massive 100,000 yuan reality check these past 2 days, I knew I had to look for a part-time job again. Early the next morning, I called up the 24-hour convenience store where I used to do work-study shifts. It turned out they needed a night shift cashier, so I agreed to take it. Tonight is your first night, and it is going to be exhausting. It will get in the way of your studies. Be good and do not go. When Qianyu genuinely felt bad for me, in the past, to support her and pay off her debts. I worked 2 jobs every single day, to the point where I actually collapsed from exhaustion. I shook my head, telling her all my classes were finished anyway. I would just be sitting idle otherwise. I really needed something to do. Besides, I already promised them. I can't back out now. The school job fair was coming up in mid. I needed to build up my own savings, just to show up to the interviews looking decent. Qianyu asked if it was because of today's shopping trip, and all those things my roommate bought. That made me want her younger brother's styling help too. He definitely knows men's fashion inside and out. Just a moment ago, he only needed one glance to spot the massive difference between my roommate and me, not to mention that mocking look in his eyes. That made me feel like he utterly despised me to his core. In the past, I would have instantly snapped back that I didn't care. And I really didn't. I knew I wasn't born for that life. I don't crave things I can never have. But this time, I stayed completely silent. My hand tightened around the birthday gift I got at lunch. Acting casual, I pulled the shirt out of the bag, held it up, and sized it up against myself. I asked her. I went to the mall today, and the sales lady at the counter, she told me this outfit really suits me. Does it look good? There were so many clothes I liked there. I think I'll take on another job, just so I can afford a few more pieces from that brand. Qianyu got an instant headache seeing the brand on the label. She had spent all of yesterday helping her brother try on clothes, and she had to buy every single piece before they could go home. At that thought, she quickly said, look, if you like these things, just buy them, and I'll pay you back. Put that back for now. I'll keep you company during your shift tonight, but tomorrow, you must make it clear to them that you're quitting. I didn't reply. A wave of bitterness hit me. There really was a difference. She could patiently watch her new boyfriend try on clothes, but for me, she just offers to pay me back. I wanted to ask if she'd still reimburse me if it cost 100,000, but I didn't. That would completely crush my dignity. Truth is, Qianyu really is good to me. She does everything any normal girlfriend is supposed to do. Like right now, with customers in the convenience store, Qianyu is the one working the register, while she had me sit nearby on a chair to study. After the customers left, she turned and caught me zoning out. He thought I was confused by the book. He crouched down in front of me, asking what was wrong. What don't you get? He reminded me that his school grades were always great. So when a theory confused me, when Qianyu would help me make sense of it. Slowly I snapped back to reality. Looking at his face so close to mine, I found myself asking, will we ever break up? I really wanted to ask who that guy was, but those were the words that slipped out instead. My heart was breaking, yet I was still clinging to one last shred of hope. Hearing that, when Qianyu gently cupped my chin, he leaned in, pressing a soft kiss against my lips. Stop overthinking things, he murmured softly. You and I are never going to break up. But I wanted to scream. Then what about your new boyfriend? Instead, I choked the words back down once more. Our shift ended at 6 in the morning. We grabbed some quick breakfast on our way back and headed straight to our rented apartment. I wasn't even hungry, just completely exhausted. I immediately crashed and fell asleep. When Qianyu still had some work to finish up, by the time he finished it was already 10. He came back to find my eyes tightly shut. I was sleeping incredibly deeply. He knew I had something heavy on my mind, and figured it had to do with yesterday's shopping trip, but he wasn't ready to blow his cover just yet. So, he decided to let me struggle a bit longer. After all, I had been poor my whole life. Eventually, when Qianyu gently nudged me awake, it was 1 in the afternoon, and his stomach was growling. He never liked eating out. Usually, whenever he was home, I would cook us a fresh meal myself. But today, I just grabbed my phone for takeout. I was just too tired. I still had a night shift ahead of me. Let's just order in today. Frowning, he asked, "You're still going to work? Didn't we agree you'd take tonight off?" I shook my head, telling her we never agreed on that. I didn't promise anything. Wen Qianyu frowned, staring at me. "No way," she said. "This will interfere with your studies." Suddenly, she remembered the clothes we saw yesterday. She asked if I wanted those clothes. "We'll buy 'em this afternoon. No more working for you." I froze slightly, surprised she actually knew about it. My heart felt even more bitter. "No thanks. I don't want them. I'm not going tonight either." I was tired of obsessing over this. The more we talk, the more truth comes out. Wen Qianyu actually understood all of this, yet she pretended to be clueless in front of me, seeing that I was not pushing the issue further. She was finally satisfied. She knew once I promised, I wouldn't go back to work. "Jungchun, I know you've suffered a lot from me these past 2 years. How about this? You start your senior year in 2 months, with no classes. Move out and live with me. I'll make it up to you slowly, okay?" I was a bit shocked. Live together. Isn't she afraid that with me watching, she won't have any chance to see her new boyfriend? Then she spoke again. "I'll pick you up next Friday. On Saturday, we'll go look at some cars. Whenever we go look at cars, or whenever I'm free, I'll go with you to find creative inspiration." She hadn't originally planned to tell me these things, but sensing that I was acting unusual today, she panicked and spilled everything just to placate me. Buying a car, I was surprised, but then felt foolishly sentimental. If it were for me, that would be one thing. But if it's for the other guy, why should I care? Ultimately, it was her decision anyway. It had nothing to do with me. Maybe this whole car purchase was actually decided together with the other guy. After lunch, I called the convenience store owner to apologize. The owner didn't press and readily agreed. I went back to my bedroom to keep sleeping. When I woke up, it was already 7 p.m. There was no sign anyone had slept beside me. We often shared the same bed, yet our intimacy always stopped at hugging. We almost never kissed, let alone did anything more. I got up and left the bedroom. The hallway outside was pitch black. Only the study light was on. I went back inside to pack my things. I knocked to tell Wen Qianyu I was leaving. Nobody answered for a long time. I pushed the door open, but the study was empty. The tiny room had a wall lined with bookshelves. They were packed with his books, mostly textbooks from his college days. Right next to them, on an old desk, Wen Qianyu's laptop screen was still glowing. It hadn't even gone to screensaver, meaning he was using it just moments ago. The screen displayed some car listing. All I saw were 2 interlocking rings on the logo. The price underneath read over 8 million yuan. All those zeros didn't make me feel anything. I didn't have 8 million anyway. But then my eyes caught a picture frame next to the laptop. Inside the plain wooden frame was not a photo of me and Wen Qianyu. Instead, it was another guy. The vintage picture was yellowed with age. The man in the photo wore a black suit. His hair was combed back perfectly neat. A gentle yet steady look filled his eyes. He wore absolutely no flashy jewelry, only a simple gold watch on his wrist. That watch looked strangely familiar. I didn't think much of it. I set the frame down and stood up to leave. Wen Qianyu wasn't there. Going through his study without him felt wrong. I left a note for Wen Qianyu and headed out. The sensor lights in the old building cast a dim yellow glow. I waited for the elevator in silence. The hallway was dead quiet. Then, faintly, I heard Wen Qianyu's voice drifting from the back stairwell. I couldn't resist creeping a little closer. Her voice grew clearer. "I already picked out the car for you. We can pick it up next week. I'll even hire a personal driver for you. Once you start college, we can get a brand new one. My little prince, please don't be mad at me anymore. Okay, I've barely been able to sleep these past 2 days." Her voice was incredibly sweet, absolutely pampering the person on the phone. It was a tender side of her I had never heard before. To think her little prince was still just a high schooler. She really had endless patience for him. Expressionless and completely numb, I walked into the elevator and left. An $8 million car is just way out of my league. After she finally calmed Wen Xiaoze down, Wen Qianyu let out a long sigh of relief. Ever since Wen Xiaoze found out his sister had a boyfriend, he had been dying to meet me. But Wen Qianyu had no idea how she would explain it to me. She walked back into the apartment. On the table, she spotted the note I had left. "I have class tomorrow, so I have to head back to school today." Wen Qianyu nodded to herself. She casually tossed the note into the trash can. A boyfriend was supposed to be this sensible and obedient. No need for him to constantly check in on her, and no need for him to drive her around. That way, she would have plenty of time for her business affairs. When Qianyu stood up, she went back into the study to pack up her things. She picked up her phone and tried calling me. When I didn't answer, she sent a WeChat voice note instead. She asked why I hadn't waited for her to get back, and told me to make sure I got home safe. After changing into a different outfit, she was no longer that poor scholarship student when she stepped out. No, she was definitely not a needy student anymore. Instead, she was the head of the renowned Yang Group, the general manager and the wealthy heiress of the Wen family. Once I got back to campus, I sent Wen Qianyu a quick WeChat text to check in. Meanwhile, Wen Qianyu had already arrived at a private hiking club. After she sent me a quick goodnight text from the parking lot, she switched off her cheap old phone, picking up the latest phone in her car. Our dear Keanu has finally decided to show up. So, why didn't you bring your boyfriend out today? Her best friend, Yang Mingting, had asked to meet up today, specifically telling her she could bring her partner along. But seeing that when Keanu still showed up alone, she jokingly asked her about it. Seeing that when Keanu just ignored her, Yang Mingting immediately turned around to ask their other friend, Shen Kia. You've probably met him before, right? What does Sister Kiangi's boyfriend even look like anyway? Shen Kiao shook her head and glanced at the silent Wen. I've never met him either, but I did hear that your mother has just returned from abroad. When Keanu simply nodded her head, raising her glass to take a slow sip. Shen Kao leaned in and continued speaking. So, when are you planning to lay things out with your boyfriend? This secret can't be kept for long. Your mother has actually already started asking around, looking for bachelors to set you up with. For someone when Keanu's age, it really was the perfect time for romance. No one else knew that he was actually with me, and my mom was already rushing to set me up. Just thinking about this whole situation made Keanu frustrated. She'd known for a while that her mom wanted to arrange blind dates, and now she definitely couldn't keep Zhang Cheng hidden anymore. If she didn't make Zhang Cheng's existence clear, she'd have to go on dates. She remembered going to pack up her laptop the other day, only to notice the photo frame on the desk had been moved. When Keanu now had a pretty good idea of things, Zhang Cheng must have definitely seen that old photograph, if he was truly sensible and mature, and obediently returned the things that didn't belong to him, before offering her a sincere and honest apology. She would spoil him even more than a beloved younger brother, giving him absolutely everything. But if he refused to, he would get nothing at all from her, including an official status. Shen Kiao stopped asking, knowing exactly how stubborn when Keanu could be. It was just past midnight, when the driver picked up when Keanu to take her back to her luxury high-rise apartment near the office. She was feeling quite tipsy by then. He slowly headed upstairs. This residential development was built by his family's real estate company. During the week he rarely visited the old house, since I never went there of my own accord, unless he asked me to on weekends. Outside of those times, he always lived here. Reaching the bedroom, he had no energy to wash up. He just collapsed onto the bed, resting his eyes. For some reason, he craved the soup I made. As he drifted out, the image of me carrying shopping bags floated before him again. When Keanu was suddenly wide awake, he got up and headed to the closet to grab some clothes. The closet was massive. His wardrobe ranged from casual everyday wear to business suits and bespoke, limited edition pieces. The selection was incredibly vast and complete. In the past, he would always leave work early, change into ordinary clothes here and then come see me. He placed a limited edition bracelet he held into the glass cabinet. A box next to it held the matching men's watch. The exquisite design on the dial shone so brilliantly it was almost blinding. Both the design and price met the highest standards of luxury in high society. When Keanu picked up the watch and turned it over, this was the birthday gift he brought back from France for me this year. Back then, when Shazé had eyed a high-end men's watch, and my wrist immediately came to his mind, so he bought me this piece from the same series. It cost 10 times more than the one when Shazé wanted. He knew I didn't recognize luxury brands, and if he claimed it was a cheap street store knockoff, I would have believed it. But in the end, he never showed up before me. Ever since we got together, he had always limited how much money I could spend, thinking of when Xiaozhe calling him stingy before. When Qian let out a mocking smile at that memory and snapped the box shut, he walked to the hidden safe in his walk-in closet and tossed the watch inside. When Keanu didn't feel a thing, he got up and walked to the study. There was another old photo resting on the desk. It looked exactly like the one in the old house, except this one was the original. In Kangyu's hands, the boy in the photo wore a gold watch. It featured a beautiful phoenix pattern, a vintage, old-fashioned design. The boy in the photo was his grandfather. When he was young, his parents were busy with work, so he lived with his grandfather. In his memory, his grandfather always wore this watch, telling him stories about the old days, about how they were poor, supporting Grandma's whole family. Later, Grandma spent all her savings from her entire lifetime just to buy this gold watch for Grandpa. Grandma passed away early, so Grandpa would often stare at the watch, sitting there for an entire afternoon, softly whispering Grandma's name over and over. That kind of old-school love was something Keanu deeply longed for and adored. Later, his grandfather fell seriously ill. His playful younger brother accidentally broke their grandfather's cherished watch. He didn't dare let his grandfather know, so he secretly took it to get repaired. But right after it was fixed, devastating news came from his grandfather's side. Rushing back with the watch via a shortcut, going too fast, he crashed into a wall while he was in a month-long coma. He missed seeing his grandfather one last time, and that precious watch was lost. He couldn't spend those final moments with him. He couldn't even be there for his grandfather's funeral. Later he checked the security footage from his hospital and saw a boy named Zhang Chunte the watch. He subtly hinted to the boy that he wanted it, but I just pretended to have no idea. As we spent time together, he gradually fell in love with me, She wanted to give me one last chance, so she handed me 50,000 yuan, hoping that for the sake of the money, I would finally return her watch. But I completely dodged the subject and sent the cash to my sister in the countryside. When Qianyu slowly grew disappointed, but still couldn't let go of the feeling she had for me. And so, our relationship went on, leaving me as the only one actually living in poverty. 3 years have passed since then. Every single moment I've tried to prove that I am not a greedy person. But for her, it is no longer just simple affection. She genuinely wants a future with me. Still, she can never get past the hurdle of that missing watch. As an heiress, she could give her boyfriend anything he wanted, but right now I'm still not qualified. Then, the sudden ring of my phone woke me up. I checked the clock, it was only 5 a.m. The screen showed an unfamiliar string of numbers, but I recognized the number of my Zhang Yao's number. Still half asleep and annoyed at being woken up, I hung up, but she called back, so I hung up again. I rejected 3 calls in a row. By then, any urge to sleep had completely vanished. The constant vibration threatened to wake my roommates, so I got up and headed out to the hallway. Zhang Yao, are you quite finished? I told you, we have nothing to do with each other. I'm not your brother anymore. You haven't called in 3 years, so there must be trouble. Hello, this is the staff at Central Hospital. Your sister was cornered and beaten by a gang of thugs last night. Early this morning, a kind passerby found her collapsed on the side of the road and brought her in. Her current condition is very critical. Please get over here as soon as possible. A middle-aged woman's cold voice came through the speaker, delivering the grim news about my sister Zhang Yao's critical state. I couldn't just leave her like that. I quickly threw on some clothes and rushed out. Since it was so early, my only option was the long-distance bus. I rode for 4 straight hours to get here. I finally rushed into the hospital. Zhang Yao was covered in brutal bruises. Her face was so swollen I could barely recognize her. They had put her in a general ward, and the 4th drip was hooked to her arm. She still hadn't woken up. A nurse spotted me standing there. She immediately snapped at me. What kind of brother are you anyway? She was gone all night, and you didn't even look. Did you even care where she was? I kept calling you, and you didn't even pick up. It was obvious she was the one who just called me. She was letting out all her frustration on me now. I apologized, muttering some excuse about being busy. The nurse clearly couldn't stand me, but in a hospital, everyone is always busy. Once she got her anger out, she told me to go see the attending doctor immediately. The doctor was a middle-aged man. He held up the x-rays they had taken of Zhang Yao. 3 of her ribs are broken, he said, and her left forearm and right leg are fractured. Luckily, we ruled out any internal organ damage. Go handle the paperwork and pay the fees first. Then I will order some more detailed tests. I nodded and went to take care of it. By the time I finished and got back, Zhang Yao had already been wheeled out for her tests. Her phone was left lying all alone on the bed. I picked up her phone. It was 3 years old, from when she started high school. A gift from our dad. When Zhang Yao got a new phone, she gave that old one to me. Since I couldn't afford a replacement, I kept using it. By now, the outer case was totally worn down and battered, but the inside was still very clean. I unlocked her phone and opened her contact list. There were only 3 contacts saved: our late parents and me. She didn't even have a classmate's number. Her call history was incredibly empty too. The most recent call was to me, last night. My last call to him was 3 years ago. Back then I gave him 50,000. I called him specifically to cut all ties. Remembering how battered Zhang Yao's face looked just now, I couldn't help but think of last night's call. She must have been beaten up right before that, clinging to consciousness just to call me for help. A wave of silent grief washed over me. Why did that idiot call me instead of an ambulance? Her phone wallpaper is a photo from our childhood, a family portrait of the 4 of us. Back when this family was first brought together, my stepmother was actually quite nice to me then. Dad was holding me close, and my stepmother held a teenage Zhang Yao. I stared at the picture, completely lost in thought. My dad looked so young back then, holding my hand and telling me, "Meet your new mom. She will take care of you from now on." How kind and gentle her face seemed then, and how utterly heartless she was when she discarded me. I lost track of time, until the nurse wheeled Zhang Yao back in. Once I got her settled, I went to cook. Meanwhile, when Qianyu did not fall asleep until dawn, by the time she woke up it was afternoon. We had plans for her to pick me up today, so she scrambled out of bed and rushed out. She wanted to buy a car that matched her status, mainly to make her daily commute a bit easier. She was sick of squeezing onto crowded buses with me, and absolutely done with the packed subway trains. She already found a cheap car for about 100,000. All that was left was taking me to choose the color. When she arrived at the campus gates, when Qianyu gave me a call, "I am at the school entrance. Are you ready to come out?" On my end of the line, I was busy skimming foam off the bone broth. I remembered our plans to look at cars tomorrow. I opened my mouth to tell her about Zhang Yao, but then I remembered she really dislikes my sister. So I lied and said I had a substitute teach tomorrow, meaning we couldn't go car shopping anymore. When Qianyu was upset that I was working another part-time job, "Didn't we agree you wouldn't do any more part-time work?" For a moment I had no idea how to explain it. I made up a lie, claiming Lin Fung got a tutoring gig, but he was busy and had to head out this week, so he asked me to cover a class for him. Knowing I was too busy to come over, Wen Qianyu figured it wasn't a big deal. At worst, she could just bring Wen Xiaozhe along tomorrow to choose the color. Besides, surprising me with it later might actually turn out to be even better anyway. Alright then, I guess I'll head back first. We can go look at cars when you are free. Wen Qianyu had long since gotten used to me constantly working part-time jobs, and she usually did not get in the way of my schedule. Wen Xiaozhe was a high school sophomore this year. He only got a break starting the day after tomorrow. But since he only got a break on the weekends, and I wasn't around anyway, Wen Qianyu decided to just head back to her home. She arrived just in time for dinner. The family of 4 sat together around the dining table for a nice reunion dinner. Her father was in high spirits at the table, bringing out a bottle of wine he had saved for years to have a few drinks. During the meal, her mother looked over at Wen Qianyu. She said, "The other day I went out for tea, and happened to run into your step-uncle and his son. The boy is studying oil painting at Ocean University. Since you are already a junior and do not have a boyfriend, I will find a chance for you to have dinner together, just to get acquainted." When Xiaozhe finally realized something was off, he quickly spoke up to stop his mother, accidentally selling his sister out right then. He said, "Mom, stop setting my sister up on random blind dates. My sister already has a boyfriend. The two of them have been together for almost 3 years now." When Keanu secretly shot a sharp glare at Wen Xiaozhe, she wasted those 100,000 yuan on him last week. He kept his mouth shut for barely 2 days before betraying her. Hearing that her daughter was actually seeing someone, Mother Wen was instantly intrigued. Father Wen pretended to take a sip, but he was actually eavesdropping intently. "If you really have a boyfriend, why haven't you ever brought him home? Why are you keeping him a secret? It is not like they are old-fashioned, conservative parents anyway." When Keanu gave a soft hum of agreement, she admitted she had a boyfriend, adding that he goes to Haida and is currently a junior this year. Seeing that Wen Qianyu wasn't angry, grew even more daring. He spilled everything he knew, rambling on and on. "That guy is honestly so sweet and amazing. Dad, you have no idea. At first, my sister pretended to be dirt poor and in debt. That poor guy actually worked part-time jobs just to support her and pay off her fake debts." Upon hearing this, Father Wen shook his head in deep disapproval. Mother Wen also frowned, saying, "This really is not right. Relationships are built on honesty. You have to be sincere. You shouldn't hide your family background and deceive him like that. If you plan on spending the rest of your lives together, he is going to find out sooner or later. How is that poor boy supposed to react when he finds out? Making him struggle like that on purpose is just cruel. Who would want to be lied to like this?" Now that Wen Xiaozhe had his parents backing him up, he kept adding fuel to the fire, saying, "On his birthday recently, my sister actually took a free gift I got from shopping and gave it to her, and that sweet guy is still completely kept in the dark. Still thinking my sister is dirt poor. It is just so wrong." Father Wen scolded Wen Qianyu, saying, "You are not being sincere with him. If you keep secrets, you shouldn't force yourselves to be together, and you definitely shouldn't be dragging him down like this." Wen Qianyu quickly tried to explain herself. "Dad, please listen. I am completely sincere about my feelings for him." When Xiaozhe did not buy it, his sister desperately needed a reality check. He wanted to expose every single one of her bad deeds to their parents, so they could properly lecture her and set things straight. She really needs to learn how to treat her boyfriend better. "Alright now, please do not be so angry. Since our daughter says she is sincere about him, just find an opportunity to bring him home so I can meet him." Mother Wen gently soothed her husband. Deep down she also agreed that their daughter was in the wrong. After all, how could she deceive him like that? When Qianyu let out a soft sigh, things were spiraling out of control much faster than she had anticipated. She originally planned to wait for me to return her watch before taking me to meet her parents. But now that Wen Xiaozhe has exposed everything, her original plan had to be Meanwhile, I stayed at the hospital, waiting for her to wake up. Just minutes after eating, she drifted right back to sleep. Just as I stepped outside, the nurse led me to a much quieter ward. Inside, 2 officers in police uniforms were waiting, along with a older gentleman. The nurse introduced me as Zhang Yao's brother. The man introduced himself with a polite, "Hello. I am the head teacher at Zhang Yao's school, and these 2 officers are investigating her case regarding what happened to Zhang Yao. It's strange because street thugs don't usually beat someone this brutally, but her injuries are incredibly severe. She must have some history with those thugs." The teacher quickly explained the situation to me. "The school will absolutely protect its students, but, Mr. Zhang, we hope you can talk to Zhang Yao directly to find out who did this, so you can cooperate with the police." I nodded in agreement. Teacher Ma didn't stay much longer. He walked the officers out, then slipped back in. The 2 of us met again just outside the ward. "Mr. Zhang, I couldn't say much with the police around, but ever since Zhang Yao started acting strange, her classmates have been whispering about seeing her hanging out with some shady characters." Teacher Ma was being delicate about it, but his expression made his meaning crystal clear. "I understand, Teacher Ma," I replied. I'll ask her about all of this. The real underworld is nothing like petty street thugs. Early that morning, when Qianyu was woken up by Wen Xiao, she ended up driving him to school. As for last night, thanks to Wen Xiaoze relentlessly selling her out, her parents found out about her and me. Her dad called him into the study and shoot him out big time. Qianyu didn't tell his father why he and I had always hidden our relationship, but his father was right about one thing. If he really wanted to be with me, he should just tell me clearly, so the two of us could be together openly. After getting scolded like that, Qianyu was actually in a great mood. The heavy clouds in his heart cleared up. Giving up on that cheap car, he went to order the one I'd had my eye on for ages. He planned to explain everything to me soon. Once the new car arrived, he'd give it to me as a birthday gift, to make up for all the hardships I had suffered. When I reached my senior year, we'd get engaged right after graduation, spend 2 years enjoying just the two of us, and then find the perfect time to marry. On the way back after ordering the car, Qianyu remembered a keychain he'd bought a few days ago. He'd meant to give it to me but forgot it in a cabinet. He planned to hang the new car key on it in a few days. He figured I'd love it. Turning the car around, the Porsche headed back toward our old rented place. Qianyu remembered it was still at the old place, so he went back for it. He remembered where he left it. He'd purposely hidden it in my pile of clothes back then, thinking I'd naturally spot it whenever I went to change. Who knew I wouldn't notice it for so long? Qianyu opened the wardrobe, searching for the keychain inside. I didn't have many clothes there, just a thin, neat stack. Digging to the bottom, he found it. Qianyu picked up the key and spotted something in the corner of the wardrobe, a black velvet bag hidden beneath my pile of clothes. It was the bag his grandfather used for his watch. Qianyu's hands began to shake. A terrible feeling of dread washed over him. He picked up the bag, but the weight already told him that the bag was completely empty. Yet unable to give up hope, he opened it anyway. Inside lay only a single piece of paper. It was a receipt for a sale at some gold shop. Zhang Cheng had sold it. The love token his grandmother had given to his grandfather, the only keepsake his grandfather had left him in this world. Zhang Cheng had sold it, just like that, all for just a few $1,000s. Meanwhile, I was sitting in the police station, learning the truth behind everything that happened. The man who had been stalking me was Zhang Yao's uncle, Li Yin, and it was all about this house. Zhang Yao had lived here alone since her parents passed away. Her uncle had been running a business out of town for years, and was doing pretty well. He once lent her mother 200,000 yuan for an emergency, but then tragedy struck her mother. Feeling sorry for Zhang Yao, her uncle let the 200,000 yuan debt slide. He told her she could pay him back once she got a job. During the 3 years I was away from home, her uncle often came by to look after her. Over time, he learned that the house was registered under Zhang Yao's name. Late last year, his second son needed to get into a good school. Egged on by his wife, he demanded Zhang Yao transfer the house to him. In return, her mother's 200,000 yuan debt would be wiped clean. This way, the massive debt would be completely forgiven, and her uncle would secure a spot in the school district, and Zhang Yao would know a cent. But Zhang Yao refused. No matter how much her uncle pressured her, nothing worked. He also knew she was still a minor, and transferring the title required me, her guardian, to be there. So, her uncle waited, waiting for the exact moment Zhang Yao turned 8. But even then, Zhang Yao still refused, so he hired some local thugs to intimidate and frighten her. But those guys didn't know their own strength, and they ended up landing Zhang Yao in the hospital. Terrified of what he had done, her uncle was too scared to visit her. Instead, he lurked around the house, waiting for her return. But when he saw me come back, he started stalking me instead. He wanted to talk to me about convincing Zhang Yao to sell her house, so he waited outside her place today. But I mistook him for some street thug and beat him up on the spot. Right now, he's still in the hospital getting stitches. Once Zhang Yao's aunt and her kids rushed over, they threw a massive, screaming fit right at me. Someone at the hospital ended up calling the police. It took the cops arriving to finally pull us apart. The businessman was hauled back to the station to cooperate with the investigation. Officer Chun, who is investigating the case, took my statement, connecting both of these cases. He looked at me and said, "Zhang Chun, I can't really comment on what happened with your dad, but Zhang Yao has gone through a lot these past few years. She only has 1 month left before the college entrance exams. I really hope that you, for the sake of once being brother and sister, can step up and help her at this critical moment." I didn't say a word. My mind drifted back to the year of my own exams. My testing center was located right inside that house's school district, but my stepmother absolutely refused to let me stay there for even 2 nights. So I spent those 2 days completely alone in a cheap guest house. Seeing my silence, Officer Chun kept talking. He warned me that her aunt is a total nightmare. If things blow up, it won't end well for anyone. I nodded. This whole mess started with that $200,000 debt. Now that people on both sides have ended up hurt, if her uncle's family decides to use this as an excuse to cause trouble, Zhang Yao won't be able to focus on her exams next month. But $200,000 isn't money you can just conjure up. My brain is completely fried. spinning back and forth between that 200,000 and the guarantor role. There's absolutely no reason for me to pay off this debt. Jiang Yao is already 8. She has every right to handle that house herself. I'm not even responsible for her college entrance exams. But first, I need to get out of here. I don't have many contacts in my phone. My aunt back in my hometown, thousands of miles away, is out of the question. Jiang Yao, whom I just added, can barely look after herself at the hospital. And I'm not even sure if when Qianyu will show up. I know she works so hard, and I've never liked being a burden to her anyway. My finger hovered over when Qianyu's contact on my screen. It rang and rang, but she just hung up on me. I called again. She hung up again, back and forth, over and over. I was stuck in an endless loop. Usually, if Qianyu didn't answer my first call, I would never try a second time, only hoping in my heart that I wouldn't disturb her important business. But today, I kept dialing until she'd lost her temper. The call connected, and her irritated voice cut through. What is it? She sounded so incredibly annoyed, but this interrogation room was just too quiet. I wanted to get out of here even more. I went back to my hometown on Friday. I had agonized over this for so long, deciding to confess everything that had happened. And then you had your little family reunion. Why are you calling me now? Of course she knew I went back. To Qianyu, I was probably just disgusting now, selling that watch behind her back to help a stepbrother who wasn't even blood. I wanted to tell her I was locked up, that without someone to bail me out, I couldn't leave. But her blatant, cold disgust made me realize she was already on guard, fearing I would ask her for money. That afternoon flashed before my eyes again. She was out with her new boyfriend, casually spending 100,000 on him, yet she once promised we would never part. My very last shred of hope depended entirely on Qianyu's response. Summoning up a tiny bit of courage, I forced the words out to her. I am in a bit of trouble. Could you lend me some money? Just think about the 2 years we shared, eating cheap buns and free soup. Please, just lend me a little. I promise I will pay you back slowly. She scoffed on the other end, mockingly agreeing. Oh sure, how much do you need? But I could hear the pure mockery in her voice, because throughout my long, painful journey of growing up, I recognized that Tonit was burned into my bones. Deep down, I already knew how this would end. I closed my eyes and whispered the number, 100,000. Please, Jiang Cheng, you might as well go beg on the streets. A cold, sharp click came from the other end, then dead silence. Just the empty dial tone. The words were humiliating, but honestly, I didn't even feel hurt. I should have accepted it long ago, all these years that I have been alive. Every single sacrifice I made never once brought a reward. I wrapped my jacket tightly around myself. It was already past 1 a.m. I'd have to wait until morning to explain everything and leave. The blood from my head was dripping down my face. I reached up and wiped it away. My palm was covered in bright red. Footsteps echoed outside the door. It was Officer Chun. He stepped inside. Jiang Cheng, you are free to go. I nodded silently, asking absolutely nothing. I simply followed right behind Officer Chun. Waiting in the freezing lobby was a young girl. She had a cast on one leg and one arm. She was struggling to balance on her good side, leaning heavily on her crutches, standing there in the freezing lobby. The moment she saw me walk out, her swollen face lit up with a massive smile. I came to take you home. Stepping out of the police station at 1 a.m. Every nearby clinic was locked up tight. Luckily, my cuts and bruises were only superficial. I managed to find some water and used paper towels to wipe the blood off my face. Supporting Jiang Yao, we slowly started heading home. The hospital was just too far away, so we would just sleep at home tonight. Tomorrow I would take Jiang Yao back to the hospital. The very second we stepped through the door, I whispered to myself, I am finally home. Jiang Yao noticed me spacing out and looked at me with deep anxiety. Brother, I didn't mean to sneak out of the hospital. I heard Aunt was hurting you, and I was so worried. I shook my head and walked into the bathroom. I washed my face and cleaned up. I grabbed a basin of hot water for Jiang Yao to soak his feet. His one good leg was caked in thick mud. I didn't even have to ask. He had leaned heavily on his crutch. Hopping all the way to the police station. I can do it myself. I actually wanted to wash up anyway. Jiang Yao looked completely overwhelmed and quickly turned me down, insisting on doing it himself. His soles were covered in popped, raw blood. Dried blood was glued to his skin. He couldn't let his brother see this. Jiang Yao didn't want me to look. I didn't push. I just went to his room to grab him some clean clothes. After his shower, Jiang Yao lay quietly in bed. Seeing me head for the door, he sat up quickly. Brother, please don't leave. Don't go. Mom and Dad are gone. And now you're leaving too, leaving me all alone here. Every time I close my eyes, your ghosts are everywhere. I wanted to go with you guys, but Dad told me in my dreams you didn't leave, and told me to stay too. These past 3 years had been pure torture for him. Knowing I resented him, he never dared to seek me out. He could only trap himself in this empty house, living in a prison of his own making, just waiting for me to look at him again. He had absolutely no one left. The brother who raised him had completely abandoned him. He truly had no reason left to live. I sighed softly. I'm not leaving. Yao smiled through his tears. his face a mess. He painfully scooted over to the far side of the bed, leaving the outer spot for me. Brother, don't worry about my uncle. I'll get a job and pay him back after exams. I won't let him cause you any more trouble. He must have heard about my ordeal today from Officer Chu. Zhang Yao only felt like she was useless, like she was constantly dragging me down. Looking confused, she asked me, "Your uncle promised to give you an extra 500,000. Why are you still holding on to the house? In total, you are selling it for 700,000. For a small town, that is not a bad deal. You could have sold it to make your life so much easier. Instead, you are starving, skin and bones, even getting yourself broken and beaten like this, even ending up with broken hands and legs." Zhang Yao shook her head, then remembered it was dark and I couldn't see. With a choke in her voice, she finally said that our parents are gone. If we sell this house too, we won't have a home anymore. Brother, no matter where you go, this place will always be your home. I will be right here waiting for you. A home I lost mine long ago, and now when Qianyu is gone I didn't say another word. I closed my eyes, pretending to sleep. When I opened them again, Zhang Yao was fast asleep. I stood up and grabbed my phone. I slipped into the bathroom and called Song Ming. I asked him to request a week off from our teacher. With Zhang Yao like this, I couldn't leave her. As for when Qianyu after tonight, I actually didn't blame her. I wasn't even sad anymore. My struggles had nothing to do with her. People have the absolute right to spend their own money. I had no right to expect anything more. Staring at my pathetic reflection in the mirror, my hair was a wild mess, stuck with bits of cigar ash. My swollen, bruised cheeks matched the dark circles under my eyes. It instantly made me think of when Qianyu's new boyfriend. "Just push through," I muttered. "The wounds will heal. Everything is going to be fine." 5 years ago, when I lost my mother, my dad kicked me back to grandma's in the countryside. In my dreams, my late mother comforted me the exact same way. A breakup, debt, injuries, how much worse could things really get? On the other side, when Canoe dragged her childhood friends out for midnight drinks, Shen Qiao sat beside her, refusing to drink, just scrolling through short videos on his phone to kill time. She had to work tomorrow. One of them had to stay sober. Since Qianya was so heartbroken over love, she let her have this chance to drink. Shen Qiao turned toward Qi and asked about Jiang Chen. Canoe's Islander set her glass on the table, and then nodded. Shen Qiao couldn't understand it. She was dating Jiang Chen, and they had already cleared her parents. What was she still stressing over? Jiang Cheng sold that watch, Qianyu said, swallowing a bitter drink. Shen Qiao felt she was totally overreacting, just bringing misery on herself. Didn't you already suspect he sold it? Why are you losing your mind now? Honestly, you should just break it off. A clean break is always better. Otherwise, seeing him just reminds you of it, and you'll keep losing your mind. Plus, he won't even know why. It is completely ridiculous. Hearing this, Canoe felt even worse. He just called to borrow money for his sister. Before her mom died, she owed 200,000. Last year, her uncle demanded it back, but she kept hiding from him. A few days ago, he sent men to beat her. When he went back home this weekend, I bet she begged him for a loan. I know Jiang Cheng is too soft-hearted. He couldn't refuse and took on this mess. How much? Shen Qiao asked. Curious. What insane amount made the wealthy miss Wen? Bring up the old issue of the watch. Qianyu said quietly. 100,000. Shen Qiao was stunned. 100,000? Are you sure you didn't miss a zero? Did you give it? Your brother Xiaozhe gets more pocket money than that, and you are actually stressing over it. Please don't tell me you didn't. Otherwise, even I would feel bad for you. When Qianyu shook her head, there is no such magical world. If when Qianyu weren't her absolute boss at work, Shen Qiao really wanted to throw her in the water. To clear her head, "Oh my dear sister, don't you forget, the toys you bought for your little brother last week already cost 100,000 yuan. Shen Qiao was actually older than but the terrible things when Qianyu had done made Shen Qiao completely throw hands up, conceding total defeat, calling her sister. I don't get it. You refused to break up over the watch, yet you've kept him hanging on like this for 3 years. What on earth do you want from him? You might as well just break up with him and end it. Seriously, you should just break up with him." Shen Qiao knew very well that I had truly poured my heart out to Wen Qianyu for 3 years. As far as she knew, this was the very first time I had ever asked her for anything, and just to borrow money, a loan that I would pay back, not like a boyfriend begging his girlfriend for pocket money. That poor young man has really suffered being stuck with a partner like Wen Qi. He saved you a fortune during your 3 years of being together. He worked hard and used his sweat and blood to support you, paying for your school so you could make something of yourself. Now he asks to borrow money, and you actually refuse. If you do the math, you were the high-maintenance one. The money he spent supporting you back then was at least 80 to 100,000. She grew angrier by the second. Shen Qiao felt her own head burning with frustration, but she felt when Qianyu was even more out of her mind. Absolutely brain-melted, kind of crazy. When Qianyu finally came to her senses, she felt awful, too. Heartbroken that her long-held suspicions had just been proven true. and that her grandmother's watch would never be found again. She was also miserable that she couldn't bring herself to cut ties completely. Deep down, she was already filled with regret. If Jian Cheng would just call her one more time, she would give him the 100,000 to help. But even now, there isn't a single message on her phone. So when Can Yu comforted herself, believing that if he really was in a rush, he would definitely call her again. This time, she wouldn't make things hard for him, and just give it to him. Since he hadn't called yet, it meant it wasn't urgent. Suddenly Shen Qiao thought of something. She grabbed Wen Qianyu's arm and asked her, have you thought about how to solve this? If you don't break up with him, sooner or later he will find out that you're incredibly wealthy, yet you wouldn't even lend him enough for a simple bar tab. What will you do then? Tonight's bar tab alone had cost over 100,000, yet she refused to lend it to him. Tongue-tied, Wen Qianyu stammered, he doesn't know. A long time ago, when he saw me, for his sake, too reluctant to even buy myself a single new outfit, he already began to worry about things like this. He was torn over the watch incident and deliberately mistreated me. While secretly terrified that I would find out, Shen Qiao concluded, it's a dead end. Just break up. I asked my roommate to help request a week off. On Friday I took Jiang Yao to the hospital for a checkup. I had her hospitalized for a couple of days, and then took a cab back to campus. Just as I reached my dorm, I looked up and saw Wen Qianyu standing right there, waiting downstairs. She was naturally such an exceptionally attractive person that students walking in and out were whispering about her. A few bold guys even went up to talk to her, but she shook her head, keeping her eyes on the building. Her back was to me. Dusk was falling. The surrounding world was starting to blur and fade. The streetlights weren't even on yet, but I recognized Wen Qianyu in an instant. She was waiting for me. When I tried to borrow money that day, I was overwhelmed with Zhang Yao's hospitalization, and the police had called me in repeatedly to help mediate the endless debt disputes involving her uncle. Every time I had to deal with her aunt's unreasonable and relentless tantrums, I was left completely exhausted, mind and body. Every night I fell asleep the second I hit the bed, and the moment I woke up, I had to look after Jiang Yao. I had absolutely no time to think about Wen Qian. He hadn't called me even once either, not even a single text message. I started walking over toward Wen Qian. He always hated dealing with the dorm matron's questions, so he had never once waited downstairs for me. Because of my connection to her, he held a deep prejudice against Jiang Yao, so it was understandable that he wouldn't lend me money. Still, seeing that he was actually waiting for me today, maybe I should explain everything to Wen Qian. But before I had gone very far, another guy stepped out of the dorm building. He was carrying a small designer duffel bag. Spotting Wen Qianyu waved with a bright smile. I stopped dead in my tracks. The guy was Li Jibing from my same department. He had held his own art exhibition back in freshman year, and regularly donated his paintings to charity auctions. He was incredibly famous in the oil painting department. On top of that, Li Jibing came from wealth. His parents belonged to a prominent, scholarly family in Hachi, the kind of scholarly family with serious spending power, who could easily swipe 100,000 yuan on clothes. Li Jibing offered a warm smile to Wen Qianyu, and they seemed to whisper secrets to each other. With Wen Qianyu's back turned toward me, he took the duffel bag from Li Jibing's hand, and they started walking out of the campus together. The two of them chatted and laughed side by side, completely oblivious to me standing in the shadows. I followed them the entire way, past the west gate where Wen Qianyu usually waited for me, and through the food street where we used to eat. They looked like high society elites out on a casual stroll, living in a perfect, exclusive world of their own, a world that the noisy, ordinary city couldn't touch. Once they reached the main avenue, Li Jibing gentlemanly helped Wen Qianyu into the car, then climbed in from the other side himself. The luxury ride sped away, leaving a trail of dust. The black Rolls-Royce logo on the back was the exact same one from that day with Wen Qianyu, the same car from his laptop screen. I had actually gone back to research it. I looked down at the shoes I had just accidentally splashed in dirty water. I turned and walked away, heading back to my dorm. My feet hurt so much that, without realizing it, I was dragging my feet. I looked up to see Song Mingyu showing off new adjustments. They were identical to Li Jibing, only the color was different. Pretty nice, right? They're the hot new, flown in from America, worth over 80,000 yuan. I looked down and smiled at mine. My shoes cost 50 yuan. Li Jibing had no siblings either. Wen Qianyu and she were dating, not brother and sister. Summer clothes need washing every day, and I sweat easily. My two outfits in the dorm weren't enough. I decided to call Wen Qianyu to get my clothes from our old rental. There was no answer. It said his phone was off. I took a bus to the house. The moment I opened the door, a cloud of dust rushed out. Paying it no mind, I walked straight in. I headed into the bedroom to pack my clothes. I rarely spent the night here, so my belongings were sparse. Everything fit into a single plastic shopping bag. Packed up, I got ready to leave. Walking past the coffee table, I noticed a pouch sitting there. It was made of black velvet, embroidered with mandarin ducks playing in water. The velvet pouch looked familiar, but I couldn't place where I'd seen it. I picked it up to look closer. The jewelry store receipt inside brought the memories rushing back. This was the exact thing when Kianya was clutching during the car crash. Inside the bag, there was a gold watch. At the time, Kinua was unconscious and needed emergency surgery. I didn't have any cash for the hospital bills, so I sold the gold watch inside the bag just to pay for his medical treatment. Later on, Kianya was transferred to another hospital. I never saw him again, but I kept the bag, hoping I'd get a chance to explain it to Kianya. But I missed the perfect window to explain. After we got together, Kianya and I were both far too busy. Slowly, the whole thing just slipped to my mind. Now, this bag is sitting on the coffee table. It means Kianya must have noticed it too. I picked up my phone and sent Kinua a text, asking him to meet tomorrow. It was finally time to clear things up about this bag. Before he got the wrong idea about that gold watch, Kinua didn't reply, so I didn't push him further. The next day I went to the agreed spot to wait for Kinua. I waited until dark, but he never showed up. So I decided to just drop it. Maybe he didn't even care about it anymore. Or maybe he was worried I'd ask for money again, actively avoiding me on purpose. During the week I told my department head about Jiang Yao getting hurt, and I requested a week of leave from the department, just to care for Jiang Yao. Luckily she started recovering very quickly. After a brief hospital stay, she was discharged to rest at home. Mr. Ma, her homeroom teacher from school, came over, bringing over all of her textbooks. So Jiang Yao officially began studying from home. After the police mediated the situation several times, Jiang Yao's uncle's side finally agreed to back down. Her uncle's side agreed to drop it. Since both sides were injured, the offenses offset each other. We agreed that neither Jiang Yao nor I would pursue the physical fight, but the 200,000 we owed had to be repaid immediately. Otherwise, he would sue us right after Jiang Yao's college entrance exams. 200,000 was definitely no small sum for me. After spending the last 2 years together with Kim, I had basically zero savings. I only had about 20,000 left in my name, and I had originally saved that 20,000 for my master's degree. Now, it seems I can't keep this card either. Jiang Yao. He just returned the bank card that I had given him in the past. It still had 40,000 on it. In 3 years, he only spent 10,000 on both tuition and living costs. I scraped together every bit of my remaining cash, but I was still short 120,000. Jiang Yao insisted I stay out of her debt business. But just 2 days later, a court summons was delivered straight to us. The trial was scheduled for the 3rd day after Jiang Yao's college entrance exam. Her own uncle was actually willing to drive Jiang Yao to her death over an apartment. I felt completely helpless. So this morning, I used grocery shopping as an excuse to slip out with the card. I had always kept this card close to me. Ever since I was sent to live with my grandmother, my dad had set up a bank account for me. And inside, he would transfer some living expenses to me every now and then. Grandmother was the one who had always kept it safe. I never even knew. She only revealed it to me on her deathbed, telling me it was the last token of my father's love. I had never touched it. My dad was already long gone, and I had sworn that I would never spend a single dime of his money in this lifetime. Yet now, I'm using it for his precious daughter. All those random transfers inside only added up to 20,000, still short 100,000. The scorching sun on the street made my vision go completely dark. This 100,000 was a curse I couldn't seem to scrape up, nor could I escape it. On Friday afternoon I went back to school, returning once again to the front of my dorm building. But when Kianya wasn't waiting there today, as I stepped through the entrance, I ran into Li Ji. My vision suddenly went dark. I leaned against the wall and slowly stopped, panting against the wall. I heard her ask, "Jiang, are you okay?" Li Jibing had seen me suddenly stop and lean heavily against the wall, which is why she came over. We were in the same major, the kind of acquaintances who knew of each other but never really interacted. We'd only crossed paths occasionally during our major classes and public lectures, but we had never spoken a single word. I waved my hand, saying I was just a little hypoglycemic. Li Jibing pulled 2 milk candies from his pocket and offered them to me. "You really need to watch out for low blood sugar," he said caringly. "Eating a couple of candies will help you feel better." I noticed the milk candies were wrapped in French paper. The packaging looked incredibly elegant. One look and I knew they were high. Seeing that I hesitated to take them, Li Ji quickly explained that they weren't some cheap, off-brand candy. "My girlfriend just brought these back from France yesterday. They aren't some cheap brand. They're actually very famous over in France. You don't really see them here at home. They're really delicious. Give them a try." For a moment, I couldn't tell if he was just praising the candy or showing off how amazing this girlfriend of his was. Was this girlfriend he was talking about when my head was spinning? I leaned against the wall, catching my breath for a long time before I recovered. I had a girlfriend too. Why didn't she treat me even half as well as Li Jibing's girlfriend treated him? Li Jibing shoved the candy into my hands the moment he finished speaking. He started jogging outside, shouting that his girlfriend was here. "Talk to you later." Weak and trembling, I leaned heavily against the wall. My eyes followed Li Jibing as he walked out of the dorm building. Out there, under the silhouette of when Kianya appeared, after she met up with Li Ji. The two of them walked away side by side. She didn't see me, or maybe she did and just pretended not to. I didn't head up to the dorm. Forcing myself to keep going, I headed straight to the old house instead. Inside, it was just as dusty as it had been last week. It looked like when Keanu hadn't come back to stay. Then again, a rich heir like Lee Ji, how could he ever want to come to a rundown place like this, much less clean it up for when I pulled out my phone to try and reach when I dialed her number. It was still turned off. It suddenly hit me. Maybe when Keanu had another phone number. Maybe that was her actual number for normal socializing. Except I wasn't a part of it. I spent the whole night in the old house, breathing in nothing but thick dust. It kept me coughing all night long. But I ignored the misery and waited, foolishly hoping when Keanu would come back. Memories of our past flashed before my eyes. Me, cooking in the kitchen, while she cleaned up. But those memories dissolved back into the dust when Keanu never came home that night. And it looked like she wouldn't be back anytime soon. With massive debts crushing me, my mind was a total blank. I had absolutely no idea where Keanu and Lee Ji Bing could have gone. I unhooked my key from the ring, along with those 2 milk candies Lee Ji Bing gave, and left them both on the coffee table. Then I walked away. It wasn't my home anymore. I didn't belong here. Once I got back to school, word was that a major VIP was visiting today. The main benefactor behind the university's fossil hall. The dean and department head were hosting her personally. All the works of the oil painting majors were displayed inside. Lee Ji Bing, an elite junior, trailed closely behind the lady, eagerly introducing our department's exhibits to her. Auntie, my mom mentioned wanting to grab dinner with you last time. I've been waiting for so long. Ji Bing kept right by her side, her voice dripping with flattery, with even deeper respect. Wonderful. Give your mom a call, and let's all grab dinner together, the lady suggested with a nod. Today Keanu is also free, so call her to join us, she said gently. Lee Ji Bing immediately pulled out her phone to call when Keanu directly. Sister Ki, Auntie wants us to have dinner with my mom today. Leading Lee Ji Bing away, Mrs. Wen looked from the president to the dean. I came here today specifically to ask for the dean's help. The dean nodded. Please, madame, go ahead. To be honest, my husband heard there is a junior in the painting department who is exceptionally talented, but unfortunately his family is struggling financially. So he specifically asked me to come meet him. When Ma explained, making her intentions clear, the department head immediately caught her drift. He knew she had to be talking about me. He quickly led the way, inviting Wen Ma to my studio. The one Mr. Wen mentioned must be Jung Chun, he said. He has been our top-ranked painter every single year, and is incredibly gifted. It is a tragedy that right when he entered college, his parents unexpectedly passed away in a sudden accident. He still has a younger sister to raise and support. These past few years, he has relied on scholarships and unloading cargo part-time to cover his living costs. The department head pushed open the door to my studio. Right before their eyes was an oil painting, bursting with a vibrant, glowing, golden yellow. Ripe wheat stalks held their heavy grains high, their sharp tips reaching upward. The sky hung heavy, both gray and blue, hovering right on the edge of sunshine and storm, leaving the mood entirely to the viewer's imagination. The canvas faced the studio door directly, displaying its own sharp, defensive edges. But stepping closer, the layered texture of the brushstrokes softened those sharp spikes. 2 deeply contrasting moods were blended into a surprisingly perfect harmony by my hand. When Ma nodded, praising it as a truly wonderful painting, the department head eagerly seized the opportunity to praise me. If it weren't for his financial struggles, this student of mine would have achieved far more than Li Ji. With the generous support of a lady like you, Jung Chun's future would be absolutely limitless. Right then, I received a phone call. When I walked in, I found the department head singing my praises, practically trying to oversell his prize, which, in this case, was me. The moment he spotted me, he eagerly waved me over. I stepped inside and politely greeted both the dean and him. This is Madam Wen. She highly appreciates your artwork. The department head gestured for me to play along. Hello, Madam Wen. She gave a polite nod. Her assistant stepped forward and handed me her card. Then she asked a few questions about the art building, just basic questions about the building. She then asked the dean and department head to leave, leaving just me and Madam Wen alone in the studio. She stared intently at my painting. It was a piece I'd worked on recently, inspired by that late-night convenience store, and the quiet, lonely path back home, where when Keanu and I met when the wheat was ripe, we used to walk hand in hand through those massive golden fields. She praised the piece, calling it very intriguing. Thank you. I am glad you like it. I thanked her politely. Her finger lightly traced the far edge of the wheat field. Can we add something else over here? Hearing that, I instantly knew her real intention. She wanted to buy my painting. In the background there was a row of old houses, but they have all been demolished now. There was also a small path winding through the field, which I never finished painting due to a lack of time. We could make the path stretch into the distance. I gestured across the canvas, asking for her thoughts. What would you like to add, madam? She nodded and said, in a few days, it will be our wedding anniversary. I want to give this to my husband as a gift. I quickly asked her, do you happen to have any photos of him? The more reference photos you have, the better. She nodded in agreement, promising her assistant would deliver the pictures later. And she offered to pay me 100,000 yuan. I could not let an opportunity like this slip away. This was originally meant to be my final piece for the graduation exhibition, honoring how when Keanu and I met and fell in love. But even the most precious memories of us simply cannot compete with cold, hard cash right now. Mrs. Wen was incredibly generous. She paid me 100,000 up front. After that, I practically lived in my studio. She had sent over so many photos, tracking their journey from newlyweds to the present day. Looking at them, you could tell the two of them had weathered so many storms. I called Jiang Yao and told him to focus on studying. I told him his loan was already taken care of. That 100,000 was just enough to pay back his uncle. Once I hung up, I got straight to work. The photos of the couple were clipped to my drawing board alongside her business card. A whole week slipped by, and soon the day arrived. It was Mrs. and Mr. Wen's 30th wedding anniversary. The grand celebration was held in the penthouse ballroom of a 6-star hotel. The big night fell on a weekend, and Mrs. Wen asked me to personally deliver the painting. She even invited me to stay for the party. My teacher dropped me off and drove away. The moment I walked inside, I spotted Wen Qianyu standing in the distance, a hotel staff member, seeing me clutching a wrapped package and dressed in a simple t-shirt and jeans. And because I couldn't produce an invitation, they assumed I was staff and pointed me toward the service elevators at the back. Just then, Li Jibing walked up behind when he tapped her shoulder, saying, "Good evening, Sister Qi." She turned around, smiling and nodding in greeting. Together, they looked like the perfect golden couple, drawing admired whispers from all the passing guests. The entire venue was absolutely dazzling. From the 10-meter-high ceiling hung massive, sparkling crystal chandeliers. The guests wore exclusive, luxury outfits, mingling and chatting. I'd only ever seen scenes like this in dramas, but seeing it play out right in front of me, I didn't actually feel all that excited. Still, my eyes couldn't help but follow Li Ji. Up ahead he was chatting with a few close friends. Who would have guessed? So he just won over Miss Wen like that. After some quick pleasantries, one of his friends teased him. His voice was dripping with envy. Actually, she already has a boyfriend. Li Jibing denied it, saying the guy was like me. Both of us students at high university. They have been together for a long time. I found it laughable. So he knew about my relationship with Qianyu all along. And to think I once saw Li Jibing as honorable, assuming he had no idea about Qianyu and me. Assuming he had no idea Qianyu and I were together. I sat with my back turned to them, completely unsurprised by any of this. I already knew Qianyu was actually a wealthy heiress, but I still didn't understand why Qianyu lied to me. Was she really just afraid I was after her family's money? I didn't want to listen anymore. Kanu and I had been in a cold war for so long. Our breakup was already a done deal. We just needed to say the words out loud. Just then, another guy, nursing a drink, scoffed out loud, fiddling with a diamond-encrusted watch on his wrist. He sneered. "Oh, I know that story. My girlfriend actually works with Miss Wen. 3 years ago, Miss Wen was in a car accident, and that guy saved her life. But get this, while she was unconscious, he stole the gold watch, left to her by her grandfather." The crowd around them gasped. Even Li Jibing shook his head in disapproval. "That is way too greedy, don't you think? He saved her life. Did he really think they wouldn't reward it? How much could a gold watch even be worth anyway?" That's where you're wrong. These poor folks grow up with absolutely nothing, and they are incredibly the moment they see something valuable, they just can't resist. The guy sneered smugly. "This poverty sickness has no cure." My blood ran ice cold. So when Qianyu actually cared about that watch, but why didn't she just ask me? The guy kept talking, saying Miss Wen wasn't stupid. She knew he loved money, so she pretended to be broke to make him pay. In the end, that loser didn't get a single dime. Miss Wen just played him like a fool. Jibing, you need to grab this chance. Miss Wen has been so nice to you lately. You've got to make your move. A fortune of tens of billions is no joke. I walked down the stairs behind the hotel, taking them one slow step at a time. Memories started flashing clearly in my mind. After we got together, we used to visit night markets. I once wanted a cup that cost 16 yuan. I bargained it down to 10. But when Qianyu said it was ugly and dragged me away, we were together for 3 years. On every single holiday, the gifts Wen Qianyu gave me were always just cheap, worthless little Back then I just thought we were struggling financially, that she had medical bills to pay, and money was just tight. So I never made a fuss over those little things. Turns out she wasn't broke, she was just guarding against me. She cared so much about that watch, choosing to harbor a misunderstanding instead of talking to me. No wonder when she saw Song Mingyu's watch on me, her first reaction wasn't even to ask who gave it to me, but to tell me to return it so people wouldn't look down on me. But wasn't she the one looking down on me the most? In that moment I wanted to rush down to find Wen, to tell her I was sorry about the watch, and that I wasn't being greedy. Suddenly, the sensor lights on the stairs went out. I missed a step in the dark. Missing the railing, I stumbled and twisted my ankle several times. Sitting there on the stairs, the sharp pain in my ankle cleared my head. There was really nothing left to clarify. Rich people like them probably only cared that I might have sold that watch. They didn't even care if I was actually greedy, much less what it feels like to starve for 3 straight days, trapped in a dead end, unable to afford my medical bills. Why didn't I just tell him the truth back then? Because I loved him. Terrified he would look down on me. We were so poor, and the struggles we faced together were endless. Endless part-time jobs, yet I could never save enough to pay him back. So I just kept treating him incredibly well, expecting nothing in return. Through all those painful times, the warmth he showed me made me completely forget about the watch for a while. With no parents to guide me, I was highly sensitive and deeply insecure. What I feared most was being looked down on. So I simply chose not to ask. He didn't mention it either, but holding on to that watch was my mistake. I really should have returned it to him. I stood up and dragged myself down, step by slow step. When Keanu arrived at the venue, his eyes scanning the crowd to find me. His mother had told him that she invited me to attend today, but he didn't see me in the crowd below. Even now, there was still no sign of me anywhere. Lately, he had been seriously considering the suggestion made by Shenki to unilaterally break up with me, at least for a while, and completely cut off all contact with me. He intentionally avoided reaching out to me in any way. He even deliberately left his old phone behind, exactly when that phone ran out of battery and shut down. He didn't even know. He felt that Li Jibeng was actually very good for him. She shared the exact same artistic mindset that I did. More importantly, there was no social class gap between them. There was zero financial pressure hanging over his head, and he never had to worry about his secrets being exposed. Being with her felt so much more comfortable than being with me. When Keanu didn't feel a single bit of awkwardness at first, but once the initial novelty wore off, as Li Jibing sat right in front of him, excitedly sharing how she went shopping with friends that day, and chatting over their elegant afternoon tea, when Keanu suddenly felt completely out of place, he realized he actually preferred hearing me complain to him about how grocery prices at the market rose by 20 cents. During those weeks, when Keanu had experienced what a normal relationship looked like, dining at high-end restaurants that matched his social status. When free, he'd stroll through malls or gardens. Whenever Li Jibing looked at him with adoring eyes. When Keanu realized he wasn't the kind of man she wanted, they should have their own thoughts and convictions. In his eyes, Li Jibing gradually faded into a flat, boring misunderstanding. Only the memory of me in his mind remained vivid. And every time, when Keanu would finally remember how he'd often dump his bad moods and cheap street junk on me, Shen Qiao said, her seeing other guys behind my back was cheating. She had already betrayed me emotionally. That made up for the regret of the watch. From now on, she didn't owe me a thing. We were finally on equal footing. She decided to let the watch incident go, and only treat me well from now on. She knew I'd be giving my parents flowers today, so she specifically waited downstairs, wanting to confess to me first, and beg for my forgiveness. She thought I was soft-hearted and easy to persuade. We had survived the hardest times in life together. We shared the most genuine love. I would definitely forgive her. She planned to officially introduce me to her parents today, to let everyone know that I was, when Keanu's boyfriend. She wanted me to know that as her boyfriend, 100,000 yuan was just pocket change, thrown away for a splash. But I didn't show up, or maybe I did, but she never ran into me. Sis, what are you daydreaming about? It's time to cut the cake. When Xiaoze pulled the dazed, when Keanu over, the family of 4 cut the cake amidst everyone's blessings. Then, a painting was brought over. Mrs. Wen presented it to her husband. An endless field of golden wheat, painted with bold, jarring colors. At first glance it felt incredibly aggressive, but a closer look revealed the hidden gentleness. A path in the wheat field stretched into the distance, with a man and woman walking away into it. The style was abstract, yet a few simple strokes brought the figures to life. Yet at first glance it immediately makes you think of none other than when Keanu's parents look old. When Mrs. Wen seemed to have stumbled upon a secret, she only showed father when the golden wheat field, cleverly keeping the sharp edges out of sight. 2 children faintly appeared in the golden field, running directly toward the married couple, making them look like a family of 4. When Keanu panicked, realizing I had already been here, she watched me paint this piece stroke by stroke until it was finished. I told her it was my private collection, something I would never sell, even if I became a world-famous artist someday. But now, I have altered that wheat field, and she went and sold it to her parents. I walked out of the hotel, standing before a jewelry store in the bustling city. The window displayed gold jewelry in all kinds of trendy new designs, along with plenty of classic patterns. Staring at the glass reflection, I saw just how miserable I looked. I watched my own tears streak down the window. It had been a very long time since I last cried. My eyes burned. Mom, I can't hold on anymore. I can't make it through this. My chest hurts so much. All the values my mother spent years teaching me about life were ground to dust and scattered by when Keanu tonight. I'm so incredibly heartbroken. I'm so miserable. When Keanu is the powerful, wealthy heiress of Yang Group, I can't keep clinging to her. and I can't even demand answers or settle scores. I'm not worthy, and I can't afford to mess with her. I completely vanished, making it impossible for Wen Qianyu to reach me. She plugged in an old phone and powered it up, only to find over 100 missed and texts that I had sent her. When Wen Qianyu tried calling back, I refused to answer. She went to the university to look for me, but I hadn't shown up for class in days. Nobody had seen me coming or going from the dorm either. Since Wen Qianyu had never officially met any of my roommates, she just ended up waiting outside the dorm building for days on end, stopping several students to ask about me. I finally found my roommates. The three of them were heading to the cafeteria. They were laughing and chatting in high spirits, but they froze the moment they saw Wen Qianyu. On guard, they glared. What do you want? Wen Qianyu quickly chimed in. Hey guys, I just wanted to ask what Jiang Cheng is doing lately. She actually wanted to ask where I was, but she worried they'd realize she couldn't find me. She wanted my roommates to think we had a conflict. Song Mingyu smirked. We wouldn't dare say anything. Li Jiabing's girlfriend coming to care about our Jiang Cheng. If word gets out, Jiang Cheng's reputation is ruined. How is our guy supposed to face anyone? My other two roommates immediately took a step back with him. Wen Qianyu had picked Li Jibing up a few times. Plus, Li Jibing had been handing out milk candies, the ones Wen Qianyu supposedly brought back from France. He shamelessly claimed they were dating, without hiding a thing. Anyone would have thought those were wedding candies. Poor idiot that I was. We were together for 3 years, yet I had less recognition than they built in 2 weeks. Li Jibing basically demoted me to the X in public. I did not even deserve to have a name. With that, the three of them brushed past her. Lin Feng noted that the cafeteria's ribs were sold out. He glared at Wen Qianyu as they walked away. The more Lin Feng thought about it, the sadder he seemed. Even those ribs had lost all their flavor. Let's pack some food to bring back for Jiang Cheng. Lately he's just been dipping free soup with cheap buns, and he only eats 1 bun a day. He honestly could not bear to watch it anymore. Song Mingyu scoffed. That poor guy's pride is too high. You bring him food, and you think he'll eat it. Besides, do you even know if he's coming back today? Just eat your own food. Lin Feng and Luo Hao both sighed heavily. I had not been back to the dorm in 3 days. 4 in the morning. Downtown I carried the last crate of alcohol inside, stacking them neatly behind the bar. Then, I grabbed a rag and wiped the counter clean. A group of customers had a blast tonight. I dragged it out so late before finally leaving. I rubbed my aching shoulders. I got off work and slipped out the bar's back door. The back alley smelled awful. The streetlights were dim. I trod carefully, trying to avoid stepping in any filth. I requested a month off from school. I spend all day at my teacher's studio. Then at 8 p.m., I help in a downtown bar's kitchen. All in all, I can make nearly 20,000 yuan a month, but this expensive city demands a high cost of living. My only option is to cut my spending to the bare minimum and save every single penny I earn. I absolutely must return Wen Qianyu's watch and the 100,000 his mother paid for my painting. If I have to, I'll pay him back every cent. At 5:30, the dorms aren't even open yet. Lately I've been crashing at the ATM near the art studio, just resting in the small booth. Tonight is no exception. I'll be sleeping there again. I sat down, leaning against the frosted security glass, wrapping my arms around myself to sleep. My phone has countless missed calls and messages from Wen Qianyu. I didn't even look. I set my alarm and fell asleep. My teacher's art studio gives me 1 day off each week. Just get through today. Tomorrow, I can finally get a good night's sleep in my own bed. The alarm went off right at 7:30. I got up and bought 3 steamed buns nearby. I grabbed them to eat on the go. Then I borrowed the shop owner's tap to wash my face. Then I headed to the studio for class. Off work at 6. I still have my shift at the bar. Wen Qianyu has completely lost track of me. My roommates refused to tell him anything. I ignored every single one of his calls and texts. He kept watch outside my dorm, but never saw me. He finally went to my department head and learned my little sister had been in an accident and that I'd taken a month off to care for her, which meant I wouldn't be returning to campus before summer break. So he asked the department head for my hometown address. She personally drove over. It was a very old, run-down neighborhood. My father had left me a house here. It is currently under my stepmother's name. She once thought of helping me get it back, but she never did, to keep her identity hidden. Wen Qianyu sat inside her car, staring blankly at my family's window. My sister Yao came out alone to buy groceries. Where's your brother today? Not far away. A middle-aged man walked up, helping an injured girl. She had heavy casts on both her leg and arm, hobbling forward painfully with her crutches. This had to be my younger sister. Wen Qianyu's brow furrowed deep. Zhang Yao smiled brightly. Without a single care, she said, my brother is busy at school and won't be back for a few days. The man sighed, pitying the sibling's tough life. He urged her, you must study hard and repay your brother when you make money. It is really not easy for a student. Paying off 200,000 for you, that's truly rare. Zhang Yao nodded firmly, as if making a vow. I will. The two then walked upstairs together, vanishing right out of Wen Qianyu's sight. A sudden sharp pain gripped Wen Qianyu's heart. She loathed how my stepmother's family acted and wanted me to stay away from them too. On top of her anger over her grandfather's watch, that was why she wouldn't lend me that 100,000. She wanted my stepsister to realize there was no more money left to squeeze out of me. But she forgot that if I swallowed my pride to ask, I would never abandon my own sister. And right now, Jiang-Chu must be breaking his back somewhere to earn cash. He is not at school, nor is he back home. Just where is he? The middle-aged man who just walked Yao up came back down. He was heading home when seeing him, quickly got out of her car and ran to catch up. The bar was packed to the brim today. I was hauling cases of drinks in the back kitchen, running back and forth between the warehouse and the bar. I hadn't rested once the entire night. When Qianyu was on the second floor, leaning against the glass railing, watching the massive crowd surging below, she knew that working in a place like this made it incredibly easy for both guys and girls to go astray. Sure, the money was quick, but she didn't even dare to wonder where the 200,000 I used to pay my sister's debt came from. I was living in Haiti, and I hadn't been back to school for a long time. I was staying off. Had I met someone else who was truly good to me, who helped me pay off all those debts? I've always been one to return a favor, so I would only be good to them from now on. When Qianyu didn't dare think about it, afraid I'd go astray and get hurt, even more afraid someone else was helping me. The party on the second floor was getting lively, but from start to finish, when Qianyu never even glanced in Li Jebing's direction, leaving the friends who were hanging out with him, feeling the awkward tension in the air. Li Jebing decided to take the initiative and go talk to Wen. Sister Qianyu, why do you look so unhappy? If something is on your mind, just say it, and I will help you find a way. Li Jebing was trying to figure out what she was thinking, hoping to get closer to her, when Qianyu just shook her head, refusing to give him an answer. Her eyes kept following a figure over by the bar. That figure was weaving through the dense crowd around the bar counter, working hard serving drinks. It couldn't be him. If you give your boyfriend the cold shoulder like that, you'll be sleeping in a guest room tonight. Someone joked, trying to be funny, while another quickly jumped in to change the subject. When Qianyu didn't care to argue or even respond, she just kept her eyes locked, completely ignoring them, staring intently at the bar area. That silhouette looked so much like him, but the streetlights downstairs were too blinding. He couldn't make out the actual figure, and ran downstairs in a frantic hurry. My back ached from moving things, so I went back to my warehouse to rest, and sat on a small chair to read. When Qianyu couldn't find me anywhere, he was already feeling incredibly frustrated. Getting blamed for his closeness with Li Jebing made it worse, leaving him completely overwhelmed with irritation. He called his driver to pick him up. Leaving the car keys behind, he walked away. The next day, when Qianyu returned to the university's west gate, just as classes were letting out, couples were walking out hand in hand, happily debating what to have for dinner. Watching them, a sudden wave of envy washed over him. They seemed completely inseparable, even if few of them would actually survive graduation. But right now, I truly envied them. My bank statements showed absolutely no spending, and I hadn't checked into any hotels either. He had no way of tracking me down. My roommates were actively shielding me from him, refusing to tell him anything about my situation. He must think I'm in trouble and hiding in some corner, carrying it all on my own. When Canoe walked past the west gate, heading inside, until he reached the bottom of my door, the people around him were whispering, muttering something about Li Jibing's girlfriend. A wave of guilt washed over Winky. Had I found out about him and Li Jibing? Had I caught him and Li Jibing together, and completely misunderstood their relationship? Was I hiding from him out of anger and jealousy? Would we really break up just like this? His phone held only unanswered calls and texts. He didn't even dare to look at our chat window anymore, and was too terrified to send me another message, dreading that red exclamation mark showing I had deleted him. I don't care who you laugh and flirt with, just don't ever come looking for me again. As another couple walked right past him, a girl stomps ahead in a fury, leaving her boyfriend behind. I have absolutely nothing to do with him. I don't even know him. The boy rushes after her, begging for forgiveness. He just asked about my clothes brand, to buy it for his boyfriend. I don't believe you. You smiled at him. You don't love me anymore. The girl's voice gradually fades away. When Qianyu suddenly panics, he has to find me and explain everything about Liru. He can't let us just cut ties. I head to the back alley to throw out some trash. Not far away, I hear someone crying and screaming. Sounds like a guy trying to break up, while the girl screams and begs him to stay, asking if he's seeing someone else. This kind of drama is everywhere on the bar street. How utterly foolish. I mutter a cynical comment. Honestly, I'm completely numb to it. I wouldn't even spare a glance walking past. But tonight, something feels off. The guy is nowhere in sight. Just the girl, putting on a solo show, laughing and crying. She stumbles right into me like she's drunk, then falls. Scrambling up, she wanders like a ghost deep into the alley. I head back to the kitchen, only to find my t-shirt stained with something strange. I go to the bathroom to wash it off, but the water rinsing down runs bright red with blood. That girl's hand must have touched me earlier. She must have smeared it onto my shirt. Blood on her hands means only one thing. That girl is trying to end her life. The bar calls for an ambulance, and they send me to accompany her to the hospital. The hospital is brightly lit. The girl keeps thrashing, refusing to cooperate. The doctors have no choice. They give her a sedative to quiet her down. Now, she lies quietly on the hospital bed, staring blankly at the white fluorescent lights on the ceiling. I sit on the couch next to her, sighing at how easy rich people have it. A VIP room, private bathroom, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a great view. Even the extra cot is huge. I asked softly if I could contact her family. I still have to work tomorrow morning. I'll have to leave early. But the girl didn't seem to hear me at all, like she literally couldn't hear a word. Time slowly ticked away in silence. She just kept her eyes open, not saying a word. Suddenly, her weak voice broke the silence of the room. It was trembling, right on the edge of a total breakdown. "What was that?" I asked back, half asleep. But then, it finally clicked. She just wanted someone to comfort her. After a long silence, I spoke. "I'm bad with words. I don't know how to sweet talk or comfort anyone. Honestly, my life is probably sadder than yours. You have money. When you get hurt, you can afford a VIP room. But I don't even know where my next meal is. You're poor. Who are you kidding?" The girl didn't believe me. "Sure, it's normal for young folks to be broke, but you only have yourself to worry about. Working at that bar," she said. "Your monthly pay shouldn't leave you living this miserably." I didn't want to explain, but hidden by the darkness and desperate for an outlet to vent, I opened up. During my freshman year, my dad and stepmom died in an accident. They left their only house to my stepsister, the daughter my stepmom brought along. I had to survive college on scholarships, so I started working part-time early on. Then, I got a girlfriend. She was in a car crash, and I happened to save her. She was hospitalized for 2 years, so we borrowed money. We worked together to pay it off. Earlier this year, she told me we were dead. I finally thought our lives would get better. "What happened next?" she asked. Women naturally love stories. She wanted to know, but no, life didn't get better. One day I was at the mall. I saw her swipe 100,000 card for another guy, right after I had been at the wet market for her, bargaining over the price of a single chicken. And that day was my birthday. She took the freebie that guy didn't want from his shopping spree and brought it back as my birthday gift. My family was struggling and desperately needed money. I was even detained at the police station. When I begged her for a loan, she told me to go beg on the streets. Talk about twisting the knife. Only later did I find out her family was actually filthy rich, and she was dating a male classmate from our department, the same guy who'd been competing with me for roles for years. When Keanu knew how much I needed that top scholarship, I'd mentioned it to her more than once, but in the end, I didn't get it. To her, that money was just the cost of a new dress, but without it, I might have to drop out. At best, things would stay the same, and I'd have to work another part-time job. The girl asked me tentatively, "You don't really sound that sad. What good would crying and screaming do? Tears won't make my debts go away. Grief is only meant for others to see, and since no one's watching, why bother?" 3 years together, and when Keanu still didn't trust my character, my heartbreak was cured by the sheer stress of debt. I won't waste time trying to warm a cold heart anymore. I just want to clear my debts and start over. "Then why haven't you dumped her, keeping her for New Year's?" the girl said angrily. I continued, "There are still a few things I need to confirm. The next time we meet, I will end it all." She finally understood. "Look on the bright side, handsome. You're such a great guy. There are plenty of amazing girls out there for you." I smiled. The pain is real, but so is letting go. But from that exact moment, when Keanu planted weeds in my heart, and they are growing wild, draining every bit of peace I had left, I didn't bring up breaking up. Not because I couldn't let go of everything I'd invested, but because I've been searching for a way to cut it out by the roots. When Keanu is the one who owes me, I need to become whole and focused again, not this broken, scarred mess I am now. "Look, you're only a sophomore in high school. Go home tomorrow, apologize to your parents, and go back to the warm family waiting for you. You can still start over again." The girl fell silent for a long time. Then, her choked voice broke the quiet. "My parents," she sobbed. "They will never forgive me. Just to be with him, I hurt them so deeply. How can real parents hold a grudge forever?" I went on. "I used to think my dad hurt me the most, and felt like life wasn't worth living. But just a few days ago I found out. My dad started a business with partners just to bring me home. He paid my stepmother off so I wouldn't inherit his debts. He transferred the house to my sister. When Zhang Yao got hurt, Officer Chung questioned my uncle and investigated the entire truth. Only then did we realize what that middle-aged man had been doing to get his son back. How hard he had struggled all alone. But things didn't go his way. He just lacked the ability and failed. All he could do was teach Zhang Yao that her brother is always her family and that she must always treat him well. So, Zhang Yao would rather be beaten to death than sell that house. If I hadn't gone back, I never would have known. "Are you a sleepy brother?" He couldn't sleep and wanted to hear me talk. The voice on the other end snapped me out of my thoughts. Putting the past aside, being a good son isn't really a bad thing. Good things do happen, after all. I got paid to save someone tonight, because you got a bed to sleep on. I didn't have to squeeze into an ATM lobby. I made it sound easy. So really, I should thank you. Those ATMs always nag me to perform transactions. They are actually incredibly loud. I could never sleep soundly, always worried I'd get in the way of customers and get chased out. The girl's name was Sunshine. She called her friend at 5 a.m. Her friend rushed over in a panic. I had just finished washing up and was leaving. I looked up, and well, a familiar face. Hey man, did you save Xiao? When Xiaozhe had just walked in, when he saw me coming out of the bathroom, and blurted it out instinctively. I nodded politely, then pulled out my phone, and added her on WeChat. If someone wants to die, you can't stop them forever. But if you feel life is meaningless, come and take a look at my world. Once you taste true hardship, just surviving with a full stomach is the ultimate blessing. I didn't say goodbye to Winsha, and just walked out. I was still wearing yesterday's black tee, with dark brown stains all over it. I hadn't dared wash it last night, fearing it wouldn't dry by morning. Now I had to head back to the dorm to change, before going to the art studio. As I opened the door, I ran right into Wen Qianyu never expected that the man she'd been searching for would suddenly appear right in front of her. When Xiaozhe was ecstatic, "This is the guy who saved Xiao." When Xiaozhe excitedly told Wen Qianyu, since Hu Xiao had already explained what happened yesterday, he was so devastated he tried to do something stupid, and it just so happened that this guy was passing by and saved his life. I stayed completely silent. Instead, I smiled coldly and said, "I have to go." With that, I brushed past her and left. The world isn't small, but it isn't that big either. The gap between our social classes is immense, yet somehow we keep crossing paths. She didn't even step inside the room. Instead, she followed me straight out. Inside, Sun Jiaxiao looked completely confused, but when Xiaozhe quickly explained, "Xiao, that guy is actually my sister's boyfriend. He saved her life once before, and then supported her for 2 whole years. Wait, your sister's boyfriend?" Sun Jiaxiao couldn't believe her ears. Was he the guy from the story she'd heard last night? The one about that ungrateful, gold-digging woman? Totally oblivious. When Xiaozhe nodded and said, "Yep, that's him. And now, he just saved your life too. He truly is a savior to our family." Sun Jiaxiao fell into a quiet silence, torn over whether she should tell him the ugly truth. Meanwhile, when Qianyu followed me out, she caught up with me in the hallway, grabbing my hand tightly and asking, "Jiang, what have you been doing lately? I call you constantly, but you never answer. I've been searching for you, and now that we've met, why are you rushing off without saying a single word?" I smiled calmly at her and replied, "I've been working shifts. No phones allowed on the job." But she already had her own explanation in mind. No phones allowed during work hours. And he didn't see them after work. The real reason was simply that I didn't want to reply, remembering how she had once ghosted me on purpose and deliberately ignored my very existence. She began to feel a deep pang of guilt, not wanting to dwell on the unanswered phone calls. She opened her mouth to change the subject, only to finally notice what I was wearing today. Wasn't this the uniform from that bar last night? When Qianyu frowned, asking if I was working at a bar, I didn't deny it. I wanted to hear what she would say next. Would she accuse me of chasing fast money in a place like that? Or lecture me about how I shouldn't go there, that people would look down on me? But to my surprise, she didn't say a single word. She looked incredibly frustrated with herself, unable to believe she hadn't recognized me yesterday. The elevator arrived. I stepped inside. She followed me in. "Have you been there this whole time? Is it because of that $100,000 from last time?" "Last time was my fault. Don't worry, whoever you borrowed from, I will pay them back." I didn't offer a long explanation. "No, I didn't borrow any money." She looked relieved. She knew that if I said no, I meant it. "Please, stop working there. That kind of place is too dangerous. I will give you my credit card. You need to focus on your studies. No more part-time jobs, all right?" I waved my hand, refusing. "No thanks. I never planned on staying there long anyway. But if I quit now, I lose the wages I've already earned. After spending some time with the students, has made me think teaching might be a good path. So I am going to skip graduate school. I'll just go back home to teach. Besides, a massive city like this really isn't for an unmotivated guy like me." When Qianyu looked completely heartbroken, "We don't need that tiny paycheck," she pleaded. "Zheng, please listen to me. We are not going back to that job. I will support whatever you want to do in the future. I can open a studio for you. Just don't work there anymore." She reached out, trying to hug me. I stepped back. "I have blood on my clothes. I don't want to ruin your outfit." The elevator dinged at the first floor. I started walking toward the exit. She grabbed my arm. "Zhang Cheng, wait. I have my car. Let me drive you home." But I suddenly stopped, a strange, hollow smile on my face. Self-mocking, or maybe mocking him. "No thanks. A car that expensive, young master, when I can't afford to pay you back if I dirty it." When Qianyu went cold, freezing right there. He knew I'd been walking a long time. I finally made it to the bus stop. The first bus wasn't until 6:30. When Qianyu didn't tail me in his car, he just stood nearby, waiting with me. Neither of us said a single word. He tried to find something to say, but I kept my guard up completely. I shut him out like he didn't even exist. Every time he tried to talk to me, I just gave him the cold shoulder. He wanted to explain why all of this happened, but he couldn't bring himself to speak. When we got to the West Gate, I refused to walk in beside him. Absolutely ridiculous. We'd been together 3 years, only to end up hiding like criminals. Terrified that one wrong step would brand me as the other man. When Keanu stayed at the gate, waiting, back in my dorm, my roommates hadn't even washed up yet. Changed into a fresh shirt, I took the long way out the East Gate to the art studio. 8 p.m. sharp, I clocked in at the bar. I figured when Keanu would follow me, but I didn't expect him to beat me there. He booked the entire place tonight. No other customers. Booking the lounge made him the ultimate VIP. My boss would do whatever he asked. Anything he wanted, he got. So, once the boss realized he was here for me, he came over to fetch me personally. Jung Chun, the VIP up front is asking for you. I stood up with a sigh. In the main hall, he sat right in the center, with just a single glass of water. He was no longer that struggling corporate slave. It was a product of her privileged background and years of being at the top. This cold, unapproachable version of Wen was something even I had never seen. My boss shot me a look before slipping away, signaling me to seize the opportunity. I treated Wen Qianyu as just another ordinary guest, one of many who frequented the establishment. Miss Wen, is there something you needed from me? Wen Qianyu hesitated. I just wanted to talk to you. I put on my most polished, professional fake smile. You are the guest. If you want to chat, of course we can. Wen Qianyu stood up and pulled me toward the second floor. Let us go upstairs so we do not disrupt business. My boss nodded understandingly. He got some guys to guard the stairs. Then he had security open the doors for business. When Qianyu looked at me, Jung Chun, I waited for you at the entrance all day. When I did not show up this morning, she assumed I was probably just tired. She prepared lunch for me at noon. She even went down to my dorm building and asked a co-worker's friend to deliver it upstairs. That was when she realized I was working outside and had left early that morning. The discovery left her feeling deeply ashamed. No normal girl would ever let her boyfriend work himself to the bone day and night. Yet she had so much money sitting around, without ever letting me benefit from a single cent. I sat there in complete silence, barely moving. Seeing this, her heart sank further. Jung Chun, it was wrong of me to hide my true identity from you. I am so sorry. If you hate me for lying to you, you can yell at me or even hit me. But please do not stay silent. Do not just ignore me or disappear. I shook my head, speaking calmly. I do not blame you. That wealth was always yours to begin with. How you choose to present yourself to friends is your own business. Hearing those words only made her chest tighten further. To her, it sounded like I was drawing a clear line. When Qianyu choked back tears, I would rather you blame me. Don't act like you just don't care. Zhang Cheng, whatever you say today, I'll accept. But you can't just throw me away like this. We've built 3 years of love and memories together. Ever since she first got with me, she never thought breaking up was even possible. I stared at Wen Qianyu for a long moment before saying, fine, then tell me, why did you hide your identity to get close to me? Where exactly were you during all those times? I desperately tried calling you. What were you doing? And who were you with? Wen Qianyu choked on her words. She absolutely couldn't answer either of those two crucial questions. To do so would force her to face a devastating, painful end. Shifting the blame, Wen Qianyu pleaded, it was all my fault before. Zhang Cheng, please, you have to believe me. I'll make it up to you, I promise. Can't we please just let everything in our past stay in the past? I remained completely silent. When Qianyu quickly scrambled to add, just treat this as us starting over again. I promise I will never lie to you again. Without getting the honest answers I needed, a wave of pure disappointment crashed down on me. I felt all my physical strength slip away. When Qianyu watched me with deep anxiety, from the very beginning of this relationship, she had never felt secure in her own heart. Even while she was obsessing over that ridiculously expensive watch, she was terrified that I'd discover her true identity. Later, after listening to Shen Qiao's terrible advice, she forced herself to temporarily forget me and look for a different way out. Yet she dreaded me seeing her like that. Deep down, besides her anxiety, there was an even larger, aching emptiness. Some random guy who shared the exact same major as me could never fill that deep void for her. A poor guy with nothing but big, empty dreams didn't deserve a place in her life. Only I, Zheng Cheng, could fill that role. We had suffered together once, so we had to share the future sweetness. Wearing her mask is when Qianyu made her realize how incredibly rare a man like me truly is. Just how rare a man like me actually is. Zheng Cheng, I'll treat you so incredibly well. We will never, ever be apart from now on. I didn't say a word. I sat on the sofa with my head down. Let's quit and go home. Okay. At that moment, my eyes finally cleared. I pushed Wen Qianyu away, stood up, and straightened my clothes. I can't quit my job. I am going downstairs first. When Qianyu called out anxiously, Do you really still want to work here? I replied with a cold voice. You just said you would listen to me. When Qianyu sheepishly closed her mouth after that, and then she quietly followed me downstairs. She thought, at worst I will just talk to him and convince him every single day. Eventually he would want to quit. There were already several customers waiting downstairs. When Qianyu followed me to the back kitchen, she rolled up her sleeves to help me serve drinks, but she had absolutely no idea how. When Qianyu grit her teeth in frustration, thinking about how I had lived like this for 3 years, the guilt in her heart grew even stronger. She made up her mind to get me to quit as soon as possible. Seeing a customer suddenly turn into an employee, the bar owner stared, while I sat on a stool in the back kitchen, holding a book in my hand. Seeing this, the owner couldn't help but sigh. The tastes of rich girls are truly impossible to figure out. After cleaning everything up and finishing work that night, when Qianyu went to get her car, while the owner called me into his office. Jiang Cheng, your life hasn't been easy. Now that you have this great opportunity, try to secure a backup plan for yourself. I knew exactly what the boss meant. Just as I walked out of the bar, my phone buzzed with a notification of 100,000 yuan being deposited. It was a transfer from corporate finance. When Qianyu frowned and asked me what was wrong, put my phone away and sat down in the back seat. The entire way back, when Qianyu kept trying to make conversation. It's way too late tonight. Tomorrow, I will take you out with me to get you familiar with this new neighborhood. And I'm going to cancel the lease on that rented apartment. This is where we are going to live after you graduate. I just stared out at the view and said nothing. We got out of the car in the underground garage. It was clear that when Qianyu usually lived in this place, that tiny rented apartment of his, he probably only went to that small apartment on the days I visited. The moment I left, he definitely did not stick around either. The garage elevator carried us all the way up, a massive penthouse apartment with its own private elevator. When Qianyu opened the door and brought me some slippers, his own pair was a matching set. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I asked him if anyone else had worn these. The sleek design of the slippers immediately made me think of Li Ji. Maybe during those couple of days, Li Jibing had been wearing these exact slippers, staying right here in this apartment. When Qianyu assumed I was just being jealous, he smiled and quickly denied it all. No other man has ever been inside this place. Everything here was prepared just for you, you know. He pulled me gently toward the master bedroom. The large wardrobe inside was packed full of clothes. Zhongchun, all of these things are for you. When Qianyu leaned in and kissed me on the cheek, he apologized to me once again. I am so sorry. Because of my own selfish actions, you had to suffer so much unfair treatment in the past. Now, I want to make all of it up to you. I picked up one of the expensive watches to inspect it closely. It was the exact same watch Song Mingyu owned. So, it turned out there was a duplicate here for me. Seeing that I seemed to like the luxury watch, when Qianyu smiled, he took it out and slipped it onto my wrist. I bought this watch especially for you. You know, I bought it back when he got his own. I just knew it would look absolutely amazing on you. And look at you now. It really does look perfect. I felt completely indifferent about it. I had no interest in admiring such an incredibly expensive item. I am really tired and need to wake up early tomorrow. Even with him driving me, I still had to be up by 7. It was already 2 in the morning. There was barely any time left for me to sleep. When Qianyu got the hint immediately and gave me the master bedroom, he quietly retreated to the guest room instead. I unclasped the luxury watch and put it right back. Looking around this room, every single corner oozes pure luxury. This bathroom is bigger than my childhood home. I can't even figure out the shower. No matter how I turn it, no hot water. I have to Google how to use it, only to stumble upon its mind-blowing price. Just this single bathroom set could buy half a house back home. Literally half a house in my hometown. Throw in the rest of the fixtures, and our entire home couldn't even pay for this one bathroom. How absolutely ridiculous. Outside, the world is struggling to survive. Yet in here, I'm using all this luxury so casually. I feel like a walking price tag, pacing around, looking up the value of everything. The bed is way too soft. These sheets are so expensive, I can't even sleep. I roll onto the hard floor just to fall asleep, surrounded by luxury. And thick stacks of cash lying everywhere. My sense of misery is overwhelming, all because of this person's lies. I worked like a dog for 3 years. At 6:30 the next morning, when Qianyu calls for me from outside. When I step out, breakfast is already served. When Qianyu frowns, why are you still in yesterday's clothes? Don't you like the ones in the closet? I shake my head. I have to head to the studio soon. The basic t-shirts in Qianyu's walk-in closet. Even the cheapest ones cost thousands. They just don't suit me. After finishing breakfast, when Qianyu drops me off at the studio, before heading off to the office. At noon, when Qianyu calls, I don't pick up. I'm able to slip away from work. She sends the maid to bring me lunch, but I'm not there. I figure when Qianyu will come looking for me next. So I ask Shen Qianing for leave and head back to school. I grabbed 2 steamed buns from the cafeteria and went back to the dorm to eat. The dorm was completely empty. Looks like the other 3 roommates went out to grab a better meal again. I had only taken 2 bites. When the 3 of them returned, Ling Fang was holding a disposable plastic takeout box. and set it on my desk. I was about to refuse, but Song Minggu said arrogantly that they were just today's leftovers, telling me I could have it because they felt sorry for me. Inside the takeout box was spicy Sichuan boiled beef. A lot of the beef was already gone, but there were plenty of veggies. I did not refuse. I picked up my chopsticks and started eating. They had actually planned to bring a fresh portion back for me, but Song Mingyu laughed and called the two of them stupid, knowing that with my fragile, broke boy pride, eating a whole portion meant I'd definitely insist on paying them back. So, leaving half was better since I couldn't pay them back. And sure enough, I accepted it. Lin Feng and Luo Hao both looked at Song Mingyu with looks of absolute admiration. What weird pride for a broke guy like me, who would rather eat someone else's leftovers. The spicy, savory boiled beef went perfectly with my buns, but as I ate I found a pile of beef hidden right at the very bottom. My hand holding the bun froze, but I pretended not to notice, and just kept eating silently. Suddenly, half a bag of milk candies landed right in front of me. Song Mingyu's mocking voice rang out from right behind me. Don't get the wrong idea. The stupid shop only sells these in mixed flavor packs. We already picked out the ones we wanted, and the remaining flavors are ones that we three just cannot bring ourselves to eat. Just take them so they don't go to waste. Saving you from getting dizzy and stumbling from low blood sugar. I kept my back turned to them and didn't say thank you. The bar owner has been going through absolute hell these past few days. He is absolutely thrilled because his VIP customer is coming in every single day now, but he is also miserable since that VIP is hanging out in the kitchen with the staff, watching me as I calmly keep my head buried in my book. Kanyu looked so hurt inside. Back when she used to help me work, I'd constantly fuss over her, making sure she was okay. But now, I barely even acknowledge her presence. Kanyu spoke in a soft, wounded voice. You won't even look at me. Deep down I still held a grudge. I didn't want her driving me to and from work lately. And when she asked me to move in with her, I said no. Even when she offered to take me out for dinner, I turned Kanyu down, making excuses that my schedule was far too busy. I wondered how long she could keep up this pity play. She knew I was genuinely holding a grudge against her this time. Looking into Kianyu's deeply disappointed eyes, I pulled out a wet wipe and gently wiped the sweat off her face before pouring her some soup to drink. For the past few days, dinner had all been prepared by the maid at Kianyu's house. She'd pick me up after work and hand it over, packed with everything from main courses to fresh fruit. Every single dish was something I loved. All of them were my absolute favorites. Dishes that used to make my mouth water just looking at them now failed to tempt me even for a second. I'd lie and say I already ate, then let Kianyu sit back and enjoy my care instead. Yet, my mind remained entirely cold and detached. This was the prestigious heiress of the Wen family, no longer the girl I had loved for so many years. Zhongchun, my friends are just outside. Can we go over and say hello together? Kinyu was clearly terrified I'd use work as an excuse. As I quietly packed my books into my canvas bag, I smiled. I'm not really dressed to meet people. I'm still wearing my work uniform, and my hands are covered in dust. She had been deeply worried that I'd refuse to meet them. Never expecting this was my only hesitation. She quickly grabbed my hand and led me upstairs. Directly above the bar was a hotel. Kianyu swiped her keycard and opened a suite. I wasn't even surprised. I headed inside to take a shower. After I finished, Kianyu went in. A few clothes hung inside the room. I took some time to clean myself up. Turns out I actually clean up quite well. Once I was done, I walked out and totally made when Kianyu's jaw dropped. She looked like she deeply regretted it, too, regretting how she'd let such a great guy slip away. I paid no mind to Kianyu's sudden emotional mood and just walked to the door to change shoes. Canvas shoes didn't exactly match a suit this nice, but since it was my first time meeting her friends, I naturally had to dress a bit formal. I wondered if anyone in that room had run into me on that day. Kianyu and I headed up to the second floor. The lighting inside was pretty dim, just bright enough to make out everyone's faces. Counting me, there were only 3 men in total, and the rest of them were all women. Oh, our dear, you finally decided to show you off. We had barely stepped in to say hello when a playful voice teased us from across the room. Kianyu held my hand and started introducing everyone. The one speaking is Zhao Pingshuan, she said. I'm half a year older than him, so he calls me Big Sister. He is a bit of a jokester, so don't take anything he says seriously. Zhao Pingshuan was quick to show some friendliness. Yeah, brother-in-law, I'm kind of a wild card, so if I ever say the wrong thing, please be the bigger man and overlook it. I simply nodded to be polite. Kianyu pointed to the next person, Shen Qi. She is the art director at our company, and the man right next to her is her Wu Yu, who also works with us. That of hers, Wu Yu. I remembered her parents' wedding anniversary party. He totally sold me out to Li Jibing back then. Thinking back on it now, Li Jibing's weirdly cold attitude toward me afterward was almost certainly his doing. There were a few others there too, and Kianyu introduced them briefly before they turned to me. This is my boyfriend Jiang Chun. Shen Qiao knew exactly what was happening, but Wu Yu was busy running even more calculations in his head. Lord knows what he did to win over Li Ji, all the sweet talking he did. But now, here I was, and all his past efforts went straight down the drain. Zhao Pingshuan started teasing us. Over there, Wu Yu immediately put on a friendly face and swapped places with Shin Qiao, taking the seat on my other side, sitting right up against me. Within 5 minutes, he was already treating me like a close brother. Zhang Chun, you're still a student, aren't you? What school do you go to? I decided to answer him all at once. A junior at Haida. To my surprise, Wu Yu grabbed my hand and gushed. No wonder I thought your hand felt a bit rough. Turns out that's from a top student constantly holding a pen. Just by looking at your hands, I can tell you're destined to be a great artist. When he brought up my hand, when Qianyu's back went completely stiff, seeing how well Wu Yu and I were getting along, she felt she had to say something to Shen Qiao. She wanted Wu Yu to hang out with me more. I was basically treating Wu Yu like a total clown, and I was highly amused by it. When Qianyu finally let her guard down completely and chatted with the friends around her, before long I grew a bit tired of talking to Wu Yu and got up to use the restroom. The staff walking by recognized me as an employee, yet they didn't ask a single question. An employee becoming a guest wasn't a big deal to them. In a place like this, hitting the jackpot in a split second can happen any time. The drinking session finally wrapped up close to 12. I hadn't touched a single drop. When Kinyu was in high spirits and drank quite a lot, she was barely sober when it was time to leave. I called the driver ahead of time to pick us up. This time the ride that showed up was an incredibly expensive meal. The driver was a middle-aged man named Liu. He looked incredibly steady and reliable. When Kanyu hung her entire weight on me, clinging to my body, muttering my name Jiang Chun over and over. She was clearly using the alcohol to act crazy. I knew it, but I didn't call her out. Once we got home, I laid her down on the sofa while I was busy brewing some hangover soup. She slipped away to shower and change her clothes. By the time I found her in the master bedroom, she was lying across the bed, acting completely shameless. After making her drink the soup, she wrapped her limbs around me, pinning me down, whining and acting spoiled. She insisted I hold her tight before she'd settle down. Suddenly, she looked up and said, "Jiang Chun, how about we go to France for a vacation? I'll travel with you. Let's start our lives over." I didn't answer. In my mind, I was busy weighing dignity against money. Beside me, she was already fast asleep. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to forget my dignity. She was a wealthy heiress. After all, if I just swallowed this, I could change my class. I was sick of being poor. I refused to suffer anymore, as long as she stayed by my side. Wealth and status were right at my fingertips. You can do this, Jiang Chun. For the sake of money, give her and yourself one last chance. June arrived in the blink of an eye. The tense energy of the national exams filled the air. Zhang Yao had only a week left before her big test. As her guardian, I had to go back and care for her. These would be the final days Zhang Yao and I shared. Once the exams were over, Zhang Yao would be free to go wherever she wanted. We would owe each other nothing. When Qianyu heard I was going back, she had a maid prepare a lot of highly nourishing food. Zhang Yao's leg still wasn't fully healed yet, but she eagerly hopped over to welcome her future sister. The building was still that same rundown place, smelling of damp and mold. It was still enough to make Qianyu choke, yet she still maintained her polite, patient posture before me. I headed into the kitchen to cook. Qianyu walked in. I was simmering pork rib soup. The broth in the pot had turned milky white. Qianyu couldn't help but swallow hard. He'd been craving this for so long. Ever since that misunderstanding about the watch, I hadn't stepped foot in the kitchen. Qianyu buried his face in my back. He loved the faint, familiar smell of cooking. His closeness made me feel a bit ticked. I had to tell him, behave yourself. My sister is right outside. Qianyu pouted. I finished all my work. Don't I get any reward? Your reward is a bowl of soup. The two of us sat down. Each of us had a huge bowl of bone broth. Qianyu asked Zhang Yao, only a week left until exams. Nervous Zhang Yao shook her head. He then asked if she had a dream school. Zhang Yao just kept shaking her head. Actually, she wanted to say she'd only look at cheaper schools, but with Qianyu around, she worried we were too poor, fearing people would look down on me. I quickly stepped in. It's too early for that. We can decide once the grades are out. Zhang Yao nodded. After eating, she tactfully went to her room to study. Kinyu washed the dishes in the kitchen. I stood right beside him, keeping him company. The two of us chatted idly. Kinyu had to leave that afternoon, knowing I'd be staying here for a week. He couldn't help but nag me. You're here alone taking care of your sister. Don't push yourself too hard. Zhang Yao needs good nutrition. Don't be too cheap when it comes to food. He pulled a card from his wallet and handed it to me. I know you're still mad at me, but at a critical moment like this, don't take it out on your own body. Can you tell? He wanted to send a nanny to look after my sister, but knowing my stubborn temper, I never would have agreed, having a total stranger in my home. But this time, I didn't refuse. I took the card. Kinyu lingered for a long time before finally leaving. I watched Kinyu walk out of the neighborhood. Then, I turned around and quickly ran back upstairs. I went back to my room to lie down and rest. Qianyu has been accommodating me much more than before. He even tolerated my cold shoulder over the past few weeks. This version of Kian is slowly becoming the person I used to dream of. Our lives are finally free of debt now, and he treats me even better than before. I opened up a shopping app, searching for a gold watch identical to the one he had. Back then, aside from giving me that gold watch, he had also given me 50,000 yuan in cash, right when my dad and stepmother had their accident. So I ended up spending all that money. Now, it is time to return it to Kian. I need to clear up what happened back then, so we can finally put the past behind us. Only then can we truly go back to how we used to be. Maybe I should stop being so jumpy and paranoid. I should try to trust Kianyu just one more time, and believe that I, too, deserve a happy future. Meanwhile, Kianyu was in a wonderful mood. He got off the highway and drove straight back home. He sat down and reached for a tangerine to refresh himself, only for Xiaozhe to look at him in disgust, asking, "You stink, get the hell away from me." It was probably the musty smell from my old house. Looking down, Kianyu realized he was still wearing my t-shirt. He hurried upstairs to take a shower and change clothes. When he came back downstairs, the dining table only had a bowl of soup left, with just 2 green leaves floating inside. Next to it sat a plate with 2 plain steamed buns. Xiaozhe smiled and told him, "From now on, this is the only food you deserve in this house." Kianyu was utterly confused by what was happening. Ever since he walked through the door, everyone treated him coldly. He asked his parents, but they just ignored him and kept eating. Only when Xiaozhe glared at Wenqi, "Sis," he muttered, "this is the last time I will call you that. From now on, you are not my sister anymore. You are just a total cheat. This garbage is all you deserve to eat." When Kianyu was genuinely furious with Wenqi, "I have spoiled you. You have no respect." Xiaozhe ducked behind his aunt. "Why are you yelling? Dad Xiao and I wanted to thank Zhang Chun today, so we went to Ocean University to find him, only to find out Sis treats him terribly. Brother Chun only gets 1 meal a day and this is it. I honestly just do not understand. It is not like our family is too broke to afford food. Why on earth would my sister treat Brother Chun like this?" When Kianyu looked completely shocked. "What nonsense are you talking? How could I ever make him eat that garbage?" Thinking back to how other people had described me, Xiaozhe was so angry his blood boiled. "And you are still making excuses. I brought this bun and soup back from Ocean University. I wanted you to taste them for yourself, sis. The soup is free from the school cafeteria, and those buns cost 1 yuan for 3. They get rock hard when they dry out." Seeing their mother's expression soften slightly, when Kianyu quickly chimed in, "Mom, once you actually meet Jiang, you are definitely going to love him." Their mother finally relented. This was likely the last time her daughter would beg her. She already had a boyfriend, and would probably settle down in the near future. Although their mother felt bad about the watch, she despised her daughter playing 2 fields even more. When Kianyu nodded, promising to bring me back soon. Seeing this, Xiaozhe chimed in, "Hey mom, can I ask Brother Chun to tutor me then?" The truth was Hu Xiao had fallen behind in school, and wanted me to help her catch up. I want to go with them going to Ocean University to find me today was actually for this reason. Besides, I was short on cash, and tutoring was not hard work anyway. The perfect solution. My character was fully guaranteed. Though when parents trusted me, Kianyu thought the proposal was excellent. She thought this proposal was pretty good. This way, I wouldn't have time for my night shift at the bar. That night, after her parents went to bed, Kianyu knocked on her brother Xiao's door. "Sis, what are you up for so late, sis?" Kianyu handed 2 stacks of cash to Xiaozhe and said, "There is 200,000 here. Half is your pocket money for this month. Give the other half to Brother Chun. Find some way to disguise it as tutoring fees. Just don't let him find out. And bring him along when you hang out with Sunja. Because of his pride, which is higher than the sky, there is no way he would accept a card transfer." With that thought, Kianyu quickly added, "And make sure the tutoring sessions are after 8 p.m. on weekdays. That way Zhang Chun will have to quit his job at the bar. Since tutoring after 8 p.m. is so late, there won't be buses, so I can drive him myself." Xiao's eyes lit up when he saw the money. He nodded quickly. "You can count on me. Mission guaranteed to be accomplished. I'll make sure my future brother-in-law is completely comfortable." Back in her room, Kianyu started a video call with me. After we chatted for a little while and hung up, I lay in bed, unable to fall asleep. I had never met Kianyu's father before, but from what other people said, he was a highly upright businessman. Born from humble beginnings, he built his entire empire with his wife. He was remarkably low-key, disliking the idea of using social media to flaunt his massive wealth, nor did he care to share his success stories with others. With a man like that as my future, I just couldn't picture the scene. For instance, I couldn't imagine what a future shared with Canoe would even look like. During the college entrance exams, Zhang Yao had her cast removed early, when Kianyu sent someone over to help my sister get around during the exams. The day after they ended, I had to return to work. When Kianyu waited outside the test center to drive Zhang Yao home, the 3 of us shared a meal together, and only then did when Kianyu and I head back to Hash. On our way back, when Kianyu kept her eyes on the road while driving, chewing on some braised duck tongues from our hometown. Did your sister say which university she wants to go to? I have no idea. I didn't ask. Zhang Yao is an adult now. Choosing which college she goes to is entirely her decision. But when Qian kept worrying about how we would pay for Jiang Yao's tuition. Fair point. She is grown up now. She should be able to make her own decisions. As when Qian Yu drifted off in thought, I suddenly asked, "Do you happen to know where Sun Xiao lives?" He called me the other day and asked if I could tutor him. He wanted to know if I could help. When Qian Yu secretly gave Wen Xiaozhe a huge thumbs up, thrilled that he had moved so quickly to get me on board, without raising any of my suspicions. Although she was thrilled inside, when Qian Yu feigned ignorance and asked, "Are you going to do it?" I nodded. "Yeah, but I want to see what his situation is like first. If I can handle the job, I will finish my current month, quit my gig at the bar, and then start tutoring him." When Qian Yu sighed, "You still want to work at that bar? You have not even caught your breath from these past few days. Why insist on putting yourself through that misery?" She urged me, saying I really should not go back there. "Get some proper rest so you actually have the energy to teach. Those kinds of places have incredibly high turnover rates anyway. If you say you are quitting today, you can get your final pay and walk right out. We do not need that tiny bit of cash." She actually made a very good point. I figured, if this tutoring job with Sun Xiao worked out, making nearly 20,000 a month, I could take a break and focus on tutoring. Working nights at the bar isn't a long-term plan anyway. Plus, tutoring Sun Xiao will be a long-term job. It also takes real brain power. I will think about it. Seeing me start to soften up, when Qi pleaded softly, "What do you say, Jiangchun? I'm a woman, too. You might not care how others see you, but as your girlfriend." Shen Qiao and his group already laughed at me. Even my friends. They've mocked me so much I can't hold my head up. And that place isn't safe either. Just do it for my sake, please. Can we please just stop going to the bar? In the future, you can go to your senior's studio during the day and tutor the Sun family's girl at night. And more importantly, he thinks being a teacher is actually quite decent. The income is stable, with no drama involved. Please, save some face for me. Can we please stay away from the bar? As soon as she finished speaking, I stuffed my half-eaten duck neck right into her mouth when Qian Yu chewed it up, taking it as my silent agreement. In reality, I just found her too noisy and wanted to shut her up. That night, I brought back plenty of hometown snacks for my roommates. Surprisingly, Song Minggu didn't pull his usual disgusted face. He grabbed a few pieces, though his mouth remained sharp. Wow, even the cheapskate is treating us today. I didn't talk back, remaining completely unfazed by his teasing, and just smilingly told him to have some more. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Zhongchun, since you and Wen Qianyu are back together, isn't it time to make it official?" They had seen Wen Qianyu walk me back to campus today, but at the west gate, I didn't let her come inside. We both still kept a low profile, just like before, keeping our distance when other people were around. We didn't even hold hands. Everyone knew we'd been together for 3 years, but the rest of the school had no idea. Lately, Li Jiabing's roommates couldn't keep quiet. They were bragging to absolutely everyone that she was marrying into Heishi's wealthiest family. While when Qianyu and I were sneaking around, I wondered if it would bring me trouble. I shook my head, not worrying about that yet. The next morning, when Qianyu and I agreed to visit her family home, I hadn't bought any nice clothes in ages. Since this was my first time meeting her parents, I needed a couple of decent outfits to look the part. My fashion sense is pretty terrible, so I asked Song Mingyu to help me choose. That morning, our entire dorm headed to the mall, knowing I was visiting her family that evening. Song Mingyu and the guys all agreed on one thing. We had to go to the most expensive mall. After wandering through a few floors, my active shopping trip quickly turned into a passive cycle of trying things on. Meeting parents is different from a normal date. Of course, you have to dress to impress. But a family like Win had probably already done a background check on me. Besides, they certainly weren't short on cash. I didn't need fancy clothes to impress them. Overdressing might actually make me look insincere. Song Mingyu immediately shut down everyone else's suggestions and picked out some clean-cut casual outfits instead. Then, he led me downstairs, toward the jewelry counter. I actually had a bit of history with this brand. The sales associate eagerly showed us their new arrival. I wasn't planning on buying anything. I figured Song Mingyu was shopping, so I just browsed. But after looking around for a bit, he grabbed 2 items and handed them to me to pay. I was completely dumbfounded. Lin Feng and Luo Hao were just as confused. With Song Mingyu's family background and personality, he would never take other people's things. So what was the meaning of this now? Song Mingyu didn't even look up. I knew these 3 had nothing good to say. Speechless, I just rolled my eyes. Are you planning to go to her house empty? Since when do broke guys care about manners? Don't tell me you were just going to bring fruit. Well, yeah, that was my plan. But I did not dare say it out loud. Otherwise, I would just get mocked for being broke again. Song Mingyu let out a cold snort. He dragged Lin Feng and Luo Hao out for coffee, ordering the priciest stuff, draining me of 300, claiming I am the future son-in-law of a wealthy family. Can't afford to look cheap now. Lin Feng and Luo Hao just follow his lead, eating their food without asking any questions. Song Mingyu smacked his lips loudly while sipping his tea. This milk tea did not come cheap. I should give you a gift in return. Otherwise, you will think I owe you, and hold a grudge for the rest of your life. My dad came from a small town in the south, and specially brought back 2 bottles of local liquor. It is not a famous brand, but when Keanu's dad really loves it, just take them with you to his place today. Saves me from making another trip. Is this a bit too generous? Seeing Song Mingyu raise his eyebrows, I did not dare ask any further. In the afternoon, we went back to campus. Song Mingyu pulled the 2 bottles from the cabinet. They were in a paper bag, decorated with an inkwash landscape painting. The sealed ceramic jars looked like vintage wine. He placed them right into my hands. Song Mingyu turned to me and said, "Take this as an apology for hiding that I knew when I knew exactly who she was back then, yet I still helped her hide it from you." His dad had arranged a blind date for him and when, but she suddenly vanished after only a few meetings. When she reappeared, she was already together with me. By the time he finally found out, it was too late to tell the truth. Lin Feng and Luo Hao were shocked that he knew her all along. Song Mingyu nodded. People of their class are often connected in countless, invisible ways, so it was no surprise they knew each other. When I first came here for school, my dad took me to meet Keanu's family, asking them to look after me. So that was how Song Mingyu knew their tastes. His constant mocking about a broke loser like me dating was just his way of hinting at Keanu's identity. Jung Chun, I will admit it, recommending that more on your birthday and sending you to grab that watch was completely intentional. I just wanted you to run into you better step up and impress her family now. Otherwise, I will mock you twice as hard for being broke. Lin Feng and Luo Hao looked at each other, completely lost as to what we were talking about. I nodded slowly. It had seemed so coincidental back then, running into Canoe and Sha. At the mall, I had already suspected that Song Mingyu knew more than he let on. Later, when Keanu was waiting for me at the West Gate, the way he recognized her instantly was clearly no accident either. Looking back now, the reason Keanu kept avoiding my roommates was likely because she wanted to steer clear of Song Mingyu for some reason. "Thanks," I spoke up. "I appreciate it." At 6 sharp, Keanu got off work and came to pick me up. She wanted to spend the whole day helping me prepare, but I stopped her and practically forced her to head to work instead. Back in the dorm, Song Mingyu gave me a thorough makeover, carrying the shopping bags. I walked toward I had asked her to wait for me at the West Gate. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. "My boyfriend looks so handsome today." "It looks like." Song Mingyu put in some serious effort. Taking the bags, she glanced inside and immediately knew Song Mingyu deserved the credit. It was just as well, since I was all set, it saved her the trouble. She then suggested, "Next time, I will pick the restaurant. How about treating your roommates to a meal?" Why did Keanu have to ruin things over a watch anyway? Song Mingyu had never once shown his face. "Now I don't have to worry." I just shrugged. With final exams coming up, we probably won't have any free time. Lin Feng and Luo Hao are still totally clueless. They have absolutely no idea who Keanu really is. I just need a little time to explain things. Arriving at the one estate, I saw a luxury villa straight out of a television show. Her parents were dressed casually, yet they still looked quite dignified. They waited in the living room as Keanu and I walked inside. Keanu immediately introduced me, saying, "Mom, Dad, this is Jeong Chu." I quickly greeted them. "Hello, Uncle and Auntie." Her dad carried himself with a strong sense of righteousness. Her mom, having dedicated her life to the family, was a gentle and incredibly virtuous housewife. She took the gifts I brought and smiled. "There is no need to be so formal. We're just so happy to have you here for dinner. Please, don't bring anything next time." "Uncle, my roommate actually gave this wine to me. He's the one who insisted I bring this bottle. His name is Song Mingyu," I added, wanting no credit. I wanted to make sure the wine's origin was completely clear. A look of realization washed over her dad. He remembered the kid. "Oh, Song Ming, the boy from the Song family. Haven't seen him in quite a while. Bring him over for a meal next time you get the chance." Honestly, her dad was only focused on the wine. He didn't care at all who had actually gifted it. I wasn't exactly a master of flattery, so I mostly just answered whatever questions her mom asked me. She carefully steered clear of any personal family matters, and only asked about things she knew I was interested in. That kind of warm family atmosphere really put me at ease. Her mom cooked the meal herself, and I went in to help. Keanu couldn't focus on the television at all. Her mind completely focused on what was happening in the kitchen. Seeing her like that, her dad smiled and said, "What's the worry? Your mother isn't going to eat him alive." But Keanu was mostly terrified her mom would bring up the watch. He and I hadn't even spoken yet, but Father Wen already thought he was worrying over nothing. Besides, his wife is the most open-minded person. There was no way she would try to embarrass me. At 6 o'clock when Xiaoze finally got home, he rushed in before even taking off his school uniform, yelling, "Good evening, Brother Chun. Look who's back." Sun Zhou Xiao was walking right in behind him. Apparently, the driver had picked him up from school. The two of them had shared a ride home. It had been a while since I last saw her. Sun Joxio's complexion looked so much better. Once she stepped inside, facing father and mother Wen, she looked a bit tense, greeting them. Uncle, aunt, sorry to disturb you. Mother Wen smiled, saying, nonsense, the more the merrier. Your parents said they are on their way. Let's wait just a bit longer. We'll start dinner as soon as they get here. Right on cue. The sound of a car packing echoed from outside. A loud, hearty laugh carried through the door. Sun Xiaoxiao's father strode inside, with her mother following close behind. Father Wen went over to welcome them warmly, insisting on sharing a few drinks with him. When Qianl found a quiet moment and leaned in to whisper what was going on. Turns out, Sun Jiaoxiu's father is in the military. Hearing we were coming over for dinner tonight, he came specifically to sort out her business. At the dinner table, the parents dominated the conversation. They did most of the talking. When Qianl kept them company with some drinks, I, on the other hand, became a total bystander. I barely even existed there. Honestly, I preferred it that way. Seeing that everyone was ignoring me, my mother spoke up. Jung Chun, she said, catching my eye. You are starting your senior year soon. Any big plans? I originally wanted to go back home and teach, but if I got back together with Wenqi, that plan simply wouldn't work anymore. I would have to figure something else out. Still, being a teacher sounded pretty good, but the competition is still fierce these days. Graduating with only a bachelor's means facing massive competition. Have you thought about going for a master's degree? I heard from your dean that you are incredibly talented. He really hopes you will keep studying. A master's degree. I've definitely thought about it, but I can't afford it. I already gave up my major because it costs too much. I don't have a wealthy family background like Li Ji to be able to package myself as a young artist. When Qianyu squeezed my hand, smiling as she said, Mom, Jiang Chun and I have already discussed this, and we want him to keep studying, and just recently, I have actually already started preparing for next year's master's degree exams. We had actually talked about the master's exam a long time ago, back when we were still incredibly poor, when Qianyu had promised me that she would make sure I went to grad school no matter what, and that I could even keep studying forever. I nodded along with her. To blend into a family as wealthy as this one, the only accessory I can really wear is a prestigious academic degree, and the only reason I can sit here enjoying this meal is partly because of Wen Qianyu's status, and partly because of my own academic success. It's great if you can study. Our family doesn't need you to go earn money. You just focus on your studies, and Wen Qianyu will take care of the rest. Xiaozi and you both need to learn from Jiang Chun as well, and stop neglecting your studies. Mother Wen and Mother Sun joined forces to lecture the other two young ones. Both of them groaned in misery. The two kids just kept complaining and whining. I finally let out a sigh of relief. That evening the driver took Wen Qianyu and me back home. In private, Mother Wen slipped me a nice watch. It was a very simple, classic gold watch, explaining that it had been left behind by Qianyu's grandfather. She was giving it to me now as a welcoming gift. I have to admit, Qianyu's family seems to have a massive obsession with gold. Both of Qianyu's grandfathers wore solid gold watches. It reminded me of her grandfather's watch. I felt like I needed to explain things clearly, but Qianyu was lying right next to me, totally drunk. She was fast asleep, completely dead to the world. Forget it. I would talk to her about it later. After meeting Qianyu's parents, I went straight back to my busy work routine. I spent my days at Shen Qioning's art studio. I went to Zhouxio's house every other evening. I was tutoring both her and Wen Sha. I was always busy. After that, I never had time to visit the Gus. Still, Shazay often brought me things that his mother had bought for us. She always bought one for me and one for him. She never played favorites. Plus, Xiaozhe was doing fine academically, but Zhao had fallen so far behind. We had to start over. It was a tough job. Zhao mom was a military wife, and she was a full-time stay-at-home mom. Her dad was stationed away and rarely came home. Every single time I went over, she would lay out a massive feast. It actually made me feel a bit awkward. But tutoring at Cheos's house was even worse. My future in-laws were just so incredibly kind, which made me feel even more so. So sometimes, I took the two of them out. We would find a quiet cafe, or rent a peaceful study room to hit the books. When we finished up at night, Ken would always drive over to pick me up. Meanwhile, the graduating high schoolers had all left the studio. Good news kept rolling in day after day. Several of them got accepted into Haida. They would soon be my school juniors. Things at the studio finally slowed down for a bit. Qianing gave me a well-deserved break. I only had to work weekends during the summer. My life was finally starting to turn around. I even had some extra cash in my pocket. Qianyu and I silently agreed to never bring up the past again. It was as if those painful days had never happened. I think I would make a pretty good teacher. Right now, I need to focus on my master's exams. 7 days after the college entrance exams, results were released. I didn't bother asking Jiang Yao how she did. My part in all of that was officially over. From here on out, my life is my own to decide. So, I threw myself into studying. My days were spent shuttling between the art studio and the library. Then one day Sun Xiaoxiao and Wen Xiaoxiao showed up at school. I dragged them both along to the library for study hall. Later, when Qiangyu came to pick them up and grab some dinner, Xiaoxiao and Xiaoxiao were chattering away without a care, debating what we should have for dinner. I didn't really care. I was down for anything. Of course, the two of them couldn't agree on a single thing. Time to prove if we are actually real siblings. You love barbecue, right? Seeing that I was staying neutral, Xiaozhe tried to play the sibling card with Qi. Xiaoxiao wasn't about to back down either. She grabbed my arm, raving about this new Japanese spot, and how incredibly fresh the seafood was. Qianyu just smiled and said his vote belonged to me. I honestly just wanted to eat at the school cafeteria, but seeing those two looking so desperate, I couldn't bring myself to say something so cruel. So, Japanese food it was. To be honest, I was craving seafood anyway. Qianyu was totally exhausted by their constant bickering. He looked at me with a helpless sigh. You know, I think we should have a quiet child in the future. One that doesn't make so much noise. Hearing that, I looked over at him. Who says we are even getting to that stage? Yet here he was, thinking so far ahead. By the time we finished it was getting late, and the dorms were already locked. Kinyu dropped the other two off at home first. Then, we headed back to Yuking Academy together. I took a quick shower and changed. Once I was settled I lay in bed reading. Kinyu walked in holding an envelope. He came over and handed the invitation to me. Shen Qiao and Wu Bing are getting engaged the day after tomorrow. Shen Qiao made a special trip today to bring us the invitation. I frowned as I took it from her to look. I held it and opened it up. It was crimson cardstock with elegant gold embossed lettering. My name was printed in gold right inside, along with the date, time, and venue of the ceremony. I snapped a magnetic clasp shut, tossed it on the nightstand, and lay back down. I unlocked my phone and started scrolling through a shopping app. Zhang Yao has put on quite a bit of weight recently. I figured I should buy him a few more clothes. His current wardrobe is looking way too empty. I am not going. So you do as you please. Go if you want to. Refusing to see Wu Yu is my absolute limit. It is already the biggest concession I will ever make for Wen Qi. But after all, the two of them grew up together. Stopping Wen Qianyu from going wouldn't look right. Wen Qianyu looked completely baffled. You're not going? Are you too busy to get away that day? Or is it just hard to get time off from Washi? I had absolutely no intention of hiding my disdain for Wu Yu. No, my schedule is completely free that day, I replied. I just simply do not want to go. Wu Yu and I can never be friends. I won't force myself to play nice with him. Lately Wu Yu had been using his upcoming engagement party to constantly try and suck up to me, but every single time I was instantly reminded of his behavior. The way he trash-talked to me in front of Li Ji, saying a guy like me had nothing going for him, claiming all I had was a pretty face. I could never bring myself to do that, kissing up to people based on their status like Wu Yu does. And I certainly don't want any association with a clown like him. It is honestly humiliating, but when Qianyu just couldn't understand, she just thought I was being antisocial and difficult. So she pleaded with me in a low voice. Zhang Chu, I only have those few close friends. Shen Qiao is the very first one among our group to get married, and I already accepted the invitation for you. We have to show him some respect no matter what. Just squeeze a little time out of your day. We can arrive a bit late, quickly grab a bite, show our faces, and then leave. It's far too... Besides, they all know that you and I are together. If I show up alone that day, they will just laugh me to death. But when Qianyu nagged me so much, I had to give in. It's not that I don't want to go, but a poor country bumpkin like me stinks of poverty. You can smell it from 10 miles away. I won't go and stink up the sweet air of their engagement. Hearing this, Wen Qianyu understood my point and demanded to know who said it. He wanted to know if it was Shen Qiao or Wu Yu. I shook my head, telling him to ask him himself. After all, someone of my status doesn't fit in with your friends, so I'd better not go there and get snubbed. I rolled over, having no intention to say more. I slept with my back turned to when Qianyu wanted to press further, but those words really bruised myself, and forcing me to repeat them felt cruel. He knew how stubborn my nature was. He knew it had to be Shen Qiao. Or were you speaking ill of me behind my back, and that I had overheard them? He knew Shen Qiao well enough to doubt it, so it was most likely Wu Yu who said it. When Qianyu gritted his teeth in rage, giving him too much face. Who did he think he was? On Friday, when Qianyu headed to work, he spent the entire day discussing a project with Shen Qiao, but he never asked Shen Qiao who actually said those words. Shen Qiao was in high spirits, busy receiving congratulations from his colleagues, so he didn't notice anything off about Wen Qi. First thing on Saturday morning, with the snacks Wen Xiaozhe had recommended, he came to the studio to keep me company. At 10 in the morning, when Kenyu's phone wouldn't stop ringing, but when Kenyu ignored it, I was busy focusing on my final assignment, paying no attention to it at all. By 11, Shen Qiao stopped calling, and Zhao Pinchuan and the others took over, bombarding him with WeChat messages, too. When Qianyu got so annoyed by the constant calls, that he finally answered one from Shen Qiao, she snapped. I'm too used to hanging around country bumpkins, and their pathetic stench, to ever deserve a seat at your table. Then she hung up and turned off her phone. Once those words were out, Shen Qiao was utterly terrified. Everything was perfectly fine just yesterday. How did things change so fast today? Did Wen Qianyu somehow misunderstand something? Or had some secret drama unfolded that he knew absolutely nothing about? When Zhao Pingshuan heard Wen Qianyu wasn't coming, he wanted to leave immediately, without even a decent excuse. Once he left, the entire crowd following him got up and walked out. Shen Qiao no longer had any heart to entertain guests. She rushed over to Wu Yu to find out what happened. Hearing Wen Qianyu's harsh attitude, Wu Yu's face went pale. In a panic, he confessed about her parents' wedding anniversary party. Just to please Li Jibin back then, he had said some nasty things to belittle me. Could someone have actually overheard them, and then used those words to curry favor with me? No wonder, no matter how he tried to please me, I ignored him. This made Shen Qiao feel even worse. It was true, she grew up with Wen Qianyu, but her family was nowhere near as wealthy. Now she was even working at Wen Qianyu's company, relying solely on the title of best friend. Otherwise, she was just another beggar from some small town. She would never forget how Zhao Ping mocked struggling young entrepreneurs. She refused to ever end up like them. Now my status is completely different. Yet, her still called me a penniless loser. No decent person could stand to hear that, let alone me. Wu Yu was scared out of his wits, calling to apologize to me. I wouldn't answer, honey. Wu Yu was a local, carrying that typical sense of superiority. But now, his entire future was about to be ruined by that very pride. Shen Qiao said powerlessly, "What else can we do? Go out and greet the guests first. Once this is over, go over and apologize to them." Wu Yu nodded. Forcing a smile, he followed Shen Qiao out to mingle. Wen Qianyu spent the whole weekend helping me study, compared to the peace and quiet on our end. Shen Qiao and Wu Yu were not having it so easy. Wu Yu scrambled to think of a way out, how to find the perfect excuse to explain everything. First thing Monday morning, Wu Yu rushed to find Wen Qianyu to explain. Desperate to clear his name, he pleaded, "Miss Wen, please do not misunderstand. I seriously never said any of those things." On the contrary, Wen Qianyu was completely She calmly kept her eyes on the documents in her hand. This only made Wu Yu panic more. "Miss Wen, someone must have been in there, intentionally talking trash behind our backs. They deliberately misled Mr. Jiang, spreading rumors, trying to drive a wedge between us, just to make Mr. Jiang misunderstand. It has to be someone who is jealous of Mr. Jiang being with you. That is why they let Mr. Jiang hear those things, specifically to crush Mr. Jiang and force the two of you to break up." Wu Yu grabbed onto this excuse, pinning all the blame on a non-existent scapegoat. Besides, there were so many people there that day. Almost all of them were Li Jibing's friends. As long as he absolutely refuses to admit it, who could actually point the finger at him? For all they know, Li Jibing did this themselves. The only thing is, he absolutely cannot confess to what he said. Wu Yu waited, his heart pounding. When Qianyu did not believe a single word of it. Wu Yu was definitely the one who said those things. Jiang Cheng would never make up stories to blame others. But since neither of them would say when it happened, she could not easily press either of them about it. Jiang Cheng was her boyfriend and she would not let him suffer. And Wu Yu was already engaged to Shen Qiao, making it impossible to avoid seeing him entirely. The big question now was how to get Jiang Cheng to forgive Wu Yu. After pondering for a long time, Wen Qianyu said coldly, "Let bygones be bygones. My boyfriend had to endure so much of your nasty attitude, and now you've made such an ugly scene. If you want to live a peaceful life, go and apologize to Jiang Cheng. If he doesn't relent, then wherever I am, you and Shen Qiao can forget about showing up." Wu Yu nodded frantically. Even if Wen Qianyu hadn't said it, he still had to patch things up. Otherwise, if it affected Shen Qiao's career, he would be in deep trouble. Wu Yu knew he couldn't afford that mess. As Wu Yu stepped out of the office, his expression instantly changed. He curled his lip in utter disdain. Who knew a college kid from some dirt-poor town could be so powerful? Once back in his own office, and steering clear of his co-workers, Wu Yu, resignedly, picked up his phone to apologize to me. Just a petty villain riding high. Now he's acting smug, wanting to get back at me. Ooh, a filthy beggar from out of town dares to show up here, begging for money to build a house back home, and can't even afford a decent suit. They probably expect me to buy it for them. I hate poor people so clueless and uncivilized. From now on I have to lock down our family finances. I can't let Shen Qiao keep taking money to help those poor relatives. Having spewed out all his inner rage, he then cursed me and Wen Qianyu, hoping we'd break up, prophesying that she would dump me sooner or later. Only then did Wu Yu feel some twisted sense of peace. He raised his phone, finally ready to call me. Since Wen Qianyu had already relented, he was sure she'd still take his side in the end, and Jiang Cheng would have to yield sooner or later. After all, his wife Shen Qiao was close friends with Wen Qianyu. No matter how stubborn Jiang Cheng was, he had to show some respect. He knew he had to swallow his pride for the Wen's sake. Even if it killed him, he'd have to smile at me. Otherwise, he'd look petty and unable to see the big picture. He was totally pathetic. I was buried in final exams, completely ignoring Wu Yu's calls. I wanted to just block and delete him, but his connection to Wen Qianyu stopped me. He just didn't know when to quit. When I didn't answer, he kept calling. Annoyed, I stepped outside the library and answered, "Mr. Wu, if you keep bothering me, I will tell Wen Qianyu the exact words you told Li Ji, and I will make sure to let her know exactly how you groveled to Li Jibing that night." "Mr. Zhang, you've got it all wrong. I really didn't mean to talk about you like that. I was just tricked by Li Jibing and his crowd. I was only asking." "Mr. Wu, you probably have no idea, but I was sitting right behind you that night. It was Wen Qianyu's parents' wedding anniversary. I remember every single word you said to flatter Li Ji. If I bring up this past grudge with her, who do you think she'll blame for it?" "Woo!" You panicked. He stammered that he'd had a few drinks that night and let things slip. He even exposed Wen Qianyu's deepest secrets. "Li Jibing knows best whether I was there or not. Wu, you don't try to act friendly with me. From now on, we stay out of each other's way. If you ever push your luck around me again, neither of you will have an easy life." Out of respect for Shen Qiao's relationship with Wen Qi, I decided to let it slide this once. But warning, Wu Yu, didn't mean I was ready to forgive how these fake social climbers treat people who are down. But Wu Yu immediately went and twisted the truth, claiming I was intentionally making things hard for him, and demanding he get on his knees to apologize. This left Shen Qia looking incredibly upset. On our engagement day, Wen Qianyu's family never showed up. His parents had even visited their home a few days earlier, and though they didn't say much on the surface, but the news my parents brought back was definitely about Wu Yu insulting me. Qianyu's parents really like me. They completely embarrassed his parents to defend me. They even called Wu Yu completely classless. They told my parents to warn Shen Qia. He needs to learn his place between our families. Shen Qia was furious, thinking I was ungrateful. I didn't know when to back down, holding on to every little grudge, just petty and completely pathetic. In her eyes, I didn't deserve Qian, and definitely not a powerful family like the Gus, so Shen Qia made up her mind. She'd talk to Qianyu about me tomorrow. Meanwhile, Qianyu was heading to France for a week. I had exams, so I couldn't go along. Wu Yu hadn't called me since that day. At least he wasn't calling to annoy me. I finally got some peace and quiet. But right after that drama cleared up, more trouble found me during my 3-day exams. I ran into Li Jibing at every single exam. He was always hanging out with his roommates. Their faces went sour the second they saw me. After the final exam, I was still packing up, when a voice sneered behind me, "Stop acting. You stole Jibing's girlfriend. Karma is going to get you." Then came insults like scumbag and fruit. The toxic remarks just kept on coming. I recognized the voice immediately. It was Jibing's roommate talking trash. Jibing put on a show, pretending to stop him, but his effort was totally pathetic. Plenty of students hung around instead of leaving, whispering and gossiping among themselves. Before long, the entire room heard that I'd stolen Jibing's wealthy girlfriend. The rumor mill kept spinning, as his roommates repeated the lie. The craziest spin claimed I got dizzier from low blood sugar, and Jibing kindly offered me some candy, which I allegedly used to scheme my way to Qi. Apparently I was scheming for ways to get close to Wen Qi, using milk candy as an excuse to play victim and beg for her protection, slowly trying to steal her away from him. Just a country bumpkin fresh out of the mountains, someone who didn't even know basic decency, just desperate for a free meal. Who knows what I'd already done to her behind closed doors. Personally, I thought that last one was the most ridiculous. On the 3rd day, after exams finished, the proctor collected the papers and left. I stood up, ready to head out but Li Jibing's roommates blocked my path. "Zhang Chun, you need to apologize to Jibing right now." I was speechless. They dragged my name through the mud, and I have to apologize. I looked past them at Li Jibing. Apologize for what, exactly? "Li Ji, did I steal your girlfriend? Or was it those 2 milk candies? Do you want them back? Or do you want me to bring up what you and your roommate at Wen Qianyu's parents' wedding anniversary party? How you deliberately baited Wu Yu into speaking, and how you, Li Jibing, were the one who kicked me out." He clearly didn't expect me to confront him so directly. "I didn't," he stammered. Seeing him lose his nerve, his roommate immediately tried to hype him up. "Don't be scared, Ji. Just expose all the dirty things Zhang Chun did. Let everyone here see his true colors." I smirked and chimed in. "Yeah, God." "Spit it out. I'm all ears." "Then tell us, what's your actual relationship with Wen Qi? Do that, and maybe I'll believe you're innocent." I stood up to leave, then paused in my tracks. I feigned a sudden realization. I get it now. It's the kind of relationship that lets your roommates bully people. Li Jibing's eyes welled up with tears. Seeing this, his roommate lost his temper. He lunged forward, swinging a wild slap at my face. I dodged it effortlessly. I calmly stared at him. "You want to hit me? You might want to think twice. For someone from a poor background like me, once we see money, we don't let go. Careful I don't sue you until you question your entire existence." With that, I turned and walked out of the classroom. Onlookers stared as we, the main players, left. I walked out and immediately checked my phone. Right then, Jiangchun, are your exams finally over? I just finished my stuff here, too. I will be flying back tomorrow afternoon. She sounded really happy. Her voice was so much lighter. I stayed calm. Yeah. Kianyu laughed. What gift do you want? I still have half a day free. Perfect chance to bring you something. I wanted to say I needed nothing, but then I remembered these 3 days. Jibing's roommates throwing passive-aggressive insults. Suddenly I felt a rush of anger. I have been craving sweets lately. Any good desert places over there, like specialty candy or something. The truth about Gibing and it had always been one-sided drama. Kanyu always kept quiet and avoided it, and I had kept pretending otherwise. So we never actually talked about it. We never discussed Jibing at all. At first I chose to trust her. I believed Kianyu would be honest. She was not the two-timing type, but I had caught her with Then Jibing and Kianyu got close. Back then, I just wanted to split. That is why I ignored it all. But now, they call me a home. I need to find out what happened. Just candy and pastries, Kianyu asked. Do you want some tea snacks, too? I was completely lost in thought. I blurted out, hey, have you ever bought candy for anyone? Kianyu, have you ever bought anyone candy? I was so deep in thought, the words just slipped out. Kianyu sounded totally confused. What? I smiled. Never mind, it is nothing. And we just kept on chatting. A few classmates walked out of the classroom, barely noticing me. They saw me standing outside the building, talking on the phone, sounding so warm and caring, fussing over someone. I just didn't know if I could believe it. What Li Jibing and his roommate had told me. But those candies brought back all the way from France, Li Ji had definitely shared them with a lot of people. And everyone who got some knew exactly where they came from. Right now I'm sitting in the living room, surrounded by a pile of gifts when Kianyu brought back. Among them was a massive bag filled with all kinds of candies. When Kianyu is taking a shower in the bedroom, I start unpacking his luggage, sorting through everything neatly, examining the gifts one by one. The candies aren't just milk chews. There's a whole variety of them, countless different flavors. But that specific milk candy blends right in, completely hard to spot. I peel back the outer wrapper. The production date printed on the paper is exactly the same as the one Li Jibing gave out. It's glaringly obvious now. These candies were definitely not bought on his recent trip. This also proves that the candy Li Jibing was indeed bought when Kianyu and I were out of touch. During his business trip to France, he brought them back specifically for Li Jibing, so she could hand them out to stake her claim. I begin picking out the milk candies one by one. The more I sort, the more ridiculous this feels. I should really thank Kianyu for his incredible generosity. How thoughtful of him to save a portion for me. Just then, when Kianyu catches me staring blankly at the candy, he instantly gets a little tense. This candy was actually a specific request from Wench. Back then he was deliberately freezing me out, forcing himself to spend time with Li Jibing instead. When he brought the candy back, Li Jibing happened to be there. To save face, he ended up giving her a few, but my Sherry had kept that aside just for me. Since he hadn't traveled again, he never found a good excuse to hand it over. So, have you picked out your favorites yet? When Kianyu sits down right next to me, he takes the piece of milk candy from my hand, unwraps it, and pops it straight into his mouth. Tastes pretty good. A bit too sweet though. Hard to choose, so keep them all. I will bring some for Z's next time. I cast my eyes down to hide the mockery. Without me ever knowing, he accumulated so many luxury goods while I was out sleeping on the streets, eating soggy buns just to save a few cents. Might as well keep them all. For once I got greedy. I wanted everything. When Kianyu relaxed at that, he smiled with satisfaction. Keep them all, but I need something in return. He cupped my cheek with his hand and kissed me. Hurry up and get your passport sorted out. You are coming with me next time. French fashion is the absolute best. We will go together. You can pick whatever you like. I closed my eyes. It was a long time before we parted. Early the next morning, when Kianyu got up to get ready for work, he tried pulling me up to choose his outfit. I just went through the motions. When Kianyu pulled me close, smothering me with kiss, I am giving you a mission starting today. Start spending the money on that card. Those hands of yours need proper care. It is my fault they became so consider it my personal plea. For once I actually nodded along. Only then did he leave for work, satisfied. Last night, my rough skin almost ruined his mood. It must have been a miserable experience. Truly the worst experience imaginable. So I called Song Minggu, who knows about skincare, and had him come along with me. Only there did I realize how neglected I looked. Not a single part of me was refined, and my hands were a total disaster zone. After a full round of treatments, the bill came out to an astronomical $7. I just could not accept it. In the end, I didn't get the card. Song Mingyu mocked me mercilessly yet again, calling me cheap and completely saying I try to scrape up every little scrap from others. I didn't care, since I wouldn't be doing hand-ruining manual labor anymore. My hands would slowly soften and slim down. It was only a matter of time. When Kianyu found out, she lectured me forever, but seeing I still did whatever I wanted, she eventually had to give up. In early August, when Xiao Zhe secretively sought out, when carrying a box in his hands. He wanted to leave it with her. It happened that I was there too. So when Xiaozhe showed it to me, it was a gorgeous, elegant keep. The drape was perfect, with a stunning sheen. He carefully lifted the dress up, saying with pride, "I got this custom-made from Mum's hometown, by a master tailor. It's a birthday gift for her in a few days. Can you keep it here for me? If I leave it at home, she might find it and ruin the surprise." I nodded, taking it to hang it up. But he quickly warned me not to. The fabric is too delicate. Hanging it will ruin its shape. As I folded it back into the box, disaster struck out of nowhere. A sudden hangnail on my finger snagged the silk, pulling out a long thread. "Watch out," but it was already too late. He quickly snatched the dress to save it, while I stood frozen in shock. I didn't dare go near it again. When Xiaozhe yelled, "Don't touch my gift again. You've already ruined it. I told you to be careful." Hearing his angry shouts from outside, when Qian rushed in to see what was wrong, pointing at the dress, Xiaozhe cried, "Sis, my gift is ruined. I tried the old master's trick, but I couldn't fix it. This dress is ruined." I begged him for so long, before he agreed to make Grandma's favorite style. Now this snag has ruined it forever. I backed away in terror, not daring to move. Qianyu rushed over to examine the dress. The snagged thread was long, trailing sadly across the delicate silk. She glanced at my bare hands next. There was a speck of blood on my middle finger, likely from a hangnail I'd ripped off. The small cut had bled a little. Qianyu instantly understood what happened. She shot me a disapproving look. Then she turned to comfort Xiaozhe. "Zhongcheng didn't do it on purpose. Just go back first. I'll find a way to fix this and get you an identical dress." Xiaozhe looked up, skeptical. "Really? When have I ever lied to you?" With Qianyu's word, Xiaozhe finally calmed down. The two of them left the bedroom. A heavy silence filled the room. All I could hear was Xiaozhe's voice outside, angrily questioning Qian. "Sis, do you treat him badly? Why are his hands still so rough?" "Because of him, my dress is ruined." I stared down at my rough, peeling hands. For the first time, they looked utterly hideous. I wanted to say I was sorry for ruining his things. The changsam lay on the bed, its silk gleaming with a soft, warm luster. It flowed as gently as water. If it weren't for that glaring snag, it would have been a perfect masterpiece. This is the world of the wealthy, a luxury only people like him can afford. Someone of my class would only ruin it. Outside, the voices finally started to fade. When Qianyu's gentle murmurs died down, only when he finished did I dare stand up. I just wanted to put the dress away. Right then, when Qianyu walked in, he snapped in disgust, "Don't touch that. If you ruin it, it's impossible to fix." He glanced at the raw blister on my finger. For a second, his eyes softened with pity, but the snag on the silk quickly annoyed him again. "I gave you money to get a manicure, but you refused to spend it. Now, the damage to this dress costs more than a full salon membership. It was too expensive to fix." Looking at it only made him irritated. Lately his guilt had kept him quiet, but I kept acting like this, completely ignoring how he felt. If I didn't want to go, he never forced me to. He didn't even push me to attend social events. But his irritation finally boiled over. "Am I not good to you, or is my money not enough? You stay with me now, just to disgust me with those ruined hands." That word hit me like a physical blow. "Did you say disgusting?" When Qianyu glared at me, all his resentment burst out. "Yes, disgusting. I know what you went through. I know I owe you, but you don't need these scars to remind me. You refused to touch my money, just to make me feel guilty forever. And now, I literally beg you to spend it. Yet you still won't. Jiang Chung, when is this going to end?" I pulled my hands back. So, my dignity was only worth some cash, a salon card, just to look pretty. What a pointless luxury. Xiaozhe can spend without blinking an eye. He would max out Qianyu's credit cards. But I can't do that. Money is hard to come by. I have to cherish it. I have no family of my own to back me up. I can't even imagine what $100 billion fortune actually looks like. Whenever I spend, I always wonder where the money comes from. If I spend this money, will I have enough left to survive? So, I apologized. Yeah, maybe I was acting too difficult. "I'm sorry I ruined your brother's treasure." Qianyu saw that I was silent. Only then did she realize she spoke too harshly. "I'm not blaming you, Jiang Chun, but please respect how I feel about you, okay? I don't want to fight with you. I'll take Xiaozhe home first. Just don't touch this Cheongsam again. Focus on your studies these next few days. Stop overthinking everything. I will handle all of this." I heard the front door click shut. The siblings had gone. The apartment fell dead silent. Qianyu didn't come back all night. I called her countless times, but she wouldn't answer. 8 a.m. the next morning. I knew waiting for her was pointless, so I got up and left. At 9 a.m., the mall opened. Since that one was ruined, I had to find an identical replacement to give back to The city is huge, but there's always a way to solve things. But I still underestimate it. The master tailor Xiaozhe mentioned, ready-made cheongsams in the shops were beautiful, but the similar styles lacked any real soul. They couldn't match the elegance of Sheos's piece. The only master tailor I tracked down just shook his head, unable to help. I searched from dawn to dusk before finally returning to my dorm. I dialed Kanyu's number, but he still didn't answer. This is always Kanyu's way of showing he's mad. He has done this to me before. Kanyu's emotional threshold is incredibly high. Whenever we argued, he'd just pout and back down. So we never actually ended up fighting. In our 3 years together, he only got mad once. Back then, he also went completely off. I couldn't get in touch with him, but he'd warned me beforehand that work would keep him busy. So I never questioned Kanyu back then. I didn't ask where he was during those silent weeks. I figured I just needed to wait quietly. Once he cooled down, he'd always return to my side. But later, he vanished again right after borrowing that money from me. But staring at my calling screen today, my heart just ached. My mind has been spiraling all day long. The image of Liji being and Kanyu getting in the car together keeps replaying in my mind. Ever since Kanyu started hanging around with Liji, all my trust in him has just vanished. The constant overthinking is leaving me completely exhausted. I pull the blanket over my face. I've always made excuses for Kanyu. I've always been patient. I never clashed with him directly, but I forgot how painful the silent treatment is. The next morning, my head was spinning. My face felt burning hot. I swallowed 2 fever pills and headed right out. These past few days, I've searched everywhere I could think of, but still, no text or call came from Kanyu. I thought about calling Xiao, but I felt too guilty. I tried calling Kanyu again to ask about the key, but I couldn't get through. Lately, Xiaoze hasn't even shown up for tutoring, leaving Xiaoxiao all by herself. It's clear he really blames me. I've walked every single street in Heishan. It's the absolute dumbest way, but it's the only choice I have left. The blazing sun is making my head spin. Sitting by the curb, I suddenly don't recognize these streets. I have no idea where I even am. Something is seriously wrong with me. The entire world is spinning out of control. I pull out my phone and call Kia, hoping she can come and pick me up. But this time, it's different. Her phone goes straight to voicemail. My vision starts going completely black. Her past words start echoing in my ears again. Everything before was entirely my fault. Jungchun, please believe me. I struggle too. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Can we please just let the past go? Can you promise she would treat me better? How pathetic of me, after everything we went through, to actually still believe a single promise she made. That's why I wouldn't spend money on memberships. I ended up losing everything in our relationship, but I didn't want anyone calling me useless. I wanted to save the money on the card for her, just in case we ever ran into an emergency. After all, life is a very long journey. You can't avoid unexpected emergencies forever. Honestly, earning and saving money is all I know. Yet Kanyu thinks my rough hands are disgusting. She just vanishes whenever she feels like it, and I can never find her. I look down at my hands and sigh. These very hands. I supported Kianal to become the star student at university. Now she despises them. My head spins, my vision blurring. That painfully familiar sensation washes over me again. I have a really bad feeling about this. I need to get up and find a quiet corner. Summoning every last bit of my strength, I try to push myself up from the curb. Going to the hospital will cost too much money. I really need to save every penny. A thick, gray haze slowly clouds my vision. Suddenly, I hear someone call my name, Jiangchun. What are you doing here? Is that Senior Shenkyu? I gave him a weak smile. Then my vision went black. I collapsed in a tiny clinic on a dusty old street. Shen Kioning came back from paying the bill and saw me staring blankly. Hey Jiangchun, why do you not give your girlfriend a call? You have heat stroke and a bad fever, and your low blood sugar is pretty severe. Going back on your own is way too dangerous. I barely heard a word. I just picked up my phone and dialed only to be told her phone was powered off. Maybe it is my own disappointment that makes this hurt so much. Instead of just waiting around in this absolute misery, I might as well just live my life alone. If I expect nothing, there is no hope, and I will never have to hurt when love is not returned. Besides, it is not like I ever spent when Kianyu's money anyway. From now on my life will just be a little tougher. But hardship is the one thing I do not fear. I made a terrible mistake, and now she is ignoring me completely. Shen Qiaoning caught a glimpse of the photo on my phone. Is it this? I gave a quiet nod. I ended up completely ruining this dress. I have spent the last few days looking for a master tailor, just trying to find someone who might be able to restore it. Shen Qiaoning sighed. How expensive is this dress? To make Wen Qianyu fly into such a massive rage. The fabric certainly looks incredibly delicate. It must be really tough to maintain. But starting a cold war over a dress is just ridiculous. A cold war is ridiculous. But in Wen Qianyu's eyes, I did it on purpose. Shen Qiaoning reasoned with me. When two people are in a relationship, it always takes a lot of time to adjust. Jiang Chun, you are just too stubborn. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride, just so the other person feels actually needed. And right now is the perfect time to apologize. But Wen has vanished completely from sight. Where am I supposed to go? I was slumped on the side of the road, just stubbornly waiting for someone to call the police. to have the cops call him and make him come. I really looked like a total beggar. Shen Qianing, well off and silent, just watched me. Even he couldn't comprehend when Qianyu's elite social class. They have real money. They don't care about the price of gold and silver. To them, rarity is what defines true value. And this Kipo was one of those rare things. Its worth went way beyond what normal people could imagine. To me, wasting hundreds of thousands on a card is crazy. But young Master Wen didn't see it that way. This Kipo meant the absolute world to his brother. Fixing it was nearly impossible. I asked so many masters, but none could do it. My smile looked worse than a sob. Shen Qianing finally got it. I understand now. We just need to fix this one thread, right? Zheng Chun, you always carry everything on your own. Walking such a long, lonely path all by yourself. You would rather torture yourself to find a way out, instead of just swallowing your pride and asking for help. I just don't get it. Shen Qianing flashed a mysterious smile. What if I told you the perfect solution is right next to you? I was confused, but Shen Qianing didn't say another word. He just waited for my foredrip to finish. Then he drove me to Wen Qianyu's to grab the key. We arrived at Yuking Academy. The second I walked in, I knew Wen Qianyu had returned. The Kipo had been packed away. Still sitting in its original box, the damage was completely unrepaired. I wanted to call Wen Qianyu right then, but I hesitated, decided against it, and just took the dress. Shen Qianing brought me to the third floor of Ye University's art building. He knocked on one of the classroom doors. A loud clattering echoed from inside for a few moments. Then, a girl with messy bird nest hair opened the door. When she saw Shen Qianing and me standing there, she scratched her head and smiled. Teacher Shen, what brings you here today? Shen Qianing turned to introduce her to me. She was in my very first pioneering class of students. Her name was Fang Xing. I nodded. Xing Xing rummaged through her things, grabbed some soap, and bolted outside. She returned a moment later, now looking like a perfectly neat, polite girl. Teacher Shen, what brings you by today? Xing Xing didn't play games. She poured some water and asked me directly. I showed her the Kipo and explained, I really do have a job I need your help with. Xing Xing saw how incredibly delicate the silk was. She quickly wiped her hands clean. Then she'll put on white gloves. Only then did she lay the dress down to examine it. I felt deeply ashamed. If only I had been this careful, I never would have made such a mess. Xing Xing grabbed a magnifying glass. This color is perfect, and this craftsmanship must be the work of a master with decades of experience. But these silk snags are pretty long, hard to fix. Hearing her, I asked anxiously, can you fix it? Xing Xing asked, how old is the woman wearing this? I told her Wen Qianyu's mother's age. I shared all the details with Xing. I also mentioned it was a birthday present. Only a few people had seen it so far, and we were in a massive rush. Xing Xing thought it over. Look, we're classmates. If you trust me, leave it here. Wen Qianyu had already given up on this dress. Now, I was just treating this as a last resort. If she can fix it, great. If not, I'd just pay Wen Xiaozhe back in cash. Once I gave her the green light, Xing Xing immediately started calling her friends. Girls, get over here quick. We have prime material. Come help me work. Soon I had over a dozen friend requests. A random mix of people, each with conditions to add. Add me and buy me this, then I'll help. Their demands were all over the place. Mostly just bubble tea and snacks. It wasn't expensive, but running around to get it all would be exhausting. Shen Qianing smiled and asked, how's that? Making friends really is that simple. I sighed. Yeah, it really is. I had no idea I was this popular. The two of us went out to grab supplies. By the time we got back, 2 hours had already passed. Honestly, the place was packed when we walked in. There were guys and girls everywhere. Everyone was hunched over, completely focused on their work. The Chiangzam had already been carefully taken apart halfway. One guy had white gloves on his hands, slowly taking apart the traditional frog buttons bit by bit. Nobody paid any attention to me at all. The craftsmanship on this piece is incredibly complex. Most tailor masters wouldn't even attempt to fix this. If we pull this off in 2 days, it shows what we're made of. I felt incredibly ashamed. I felt like I failed this dress. With the deadline tight, everyone had a clear defined role. They worked around the clock without a single complaint. I took on the role of their delivery guy, making sure all their needs were met. Shen Qianing pitched in to handle the cleaning. Zhang Cheng, there are plenty of students at our university struggling like you. But don't ever underestimate these so-called poor students. And that includes you. Zhang, just look in the mirror to see how amazing you are. It was the first time I'd ever been praised. I felt a bit embarrassed. Senior Sister Shen, stop teasing me. I really need to thank you for this. I owe you a dinner, because I'd been adding random contacts lately. I was accepting every single request that came in. That afternoon, I went to the campus clinic for a fever shot. I received a message on WeChat from one of those random accounts. It was a video, right in front of a Western-style villa, when Qianyu and Li Jibain were getting out of a car. When Xiaoxie stepped out from the back and followed closely beside them, the whole scene looked incredibly warm and harmonious. There was a timestamp displayed at the bottom of the video. It was filmed during the exact days I couldn't reach her. I had no interest in asking who they were. I had already seen through this long ago. The needle stung slightly as it pierced my skin. I comforted myself that I'd be fine once the shot was over. After running a fever this long, it was time to wake up. I didn't delete the video. Stepping out of the campus clinic, I headed straight into the workshop to check on the progress of repairing that cup. It was completely unaffected by the video. That Xiangzam had undergone some massive alterations, meaning many of the old materials were unusable. Since Fang Xinxin couldn't get away from her end, she asked me to go pick them up. Shen Qianing drove me there, taking me to that old tailor shop on East 3rd Street. Just as we parked, I only heard Shen Qianing ask me, "Is that your girlfriend?" I looked up, only to see Wen Qianyu parked right across from us. She was dropping off Li Jibing, who walked into one of the detached townhouses. Suddenly I remembered Li Jibing's family lived in this neighborhood. I smiled, got out and said, "She's not." We broke up. Life is already bitter enough. There's no need to force myself to suffer anymore. No amount of money can buy the happiness I want. Letting go allows me to make a clean break. I don't need Wen Qianyu in my life anymore. The next day was Wen Qianyu's mother's birthday. Wen Canu, who had gone missing, suddenly called me, saying that Wen Xiao's issue had been resolved, and that she'd pick me up after work tonight, to go have dinner together, and celebrate her mother's birthday. I neither agreed nor refused. It had only been a few days, yet here she was, acting as if nothing had happened, standing right in front of me again, as if she hadn't been heartbroken, acting like nothing changed in front of me, and as if she'd never called me disgusting. Her mother's birthday dinner was set for that evening. Those classmates managed to finish everything just before noon. I thanked them all one by one, then left with the key. I asked Shen Qianing to give me a ride to the mall. I walked into a gold shop and bought a gold watch that looked almost identical to Qian. Its price tag was practically the same as the one he owned. With a gold watch in my hand, my memories suddenly became crystal clear. The very first time Qianyu went missing, it happened just like that. But the gap between us was never really about a gold watch. To me, the gold hairpieces worn for a wedding could easily just be fake rep. They looked good and were practical, without any fear of getting lost or damaged in a crowd. But to someone like Qian, this was entirely about one's attitude toward life. It was cheapness, a poor person's desperate vanity to save face. It was about my greed for wealth while refusing to spend real money. Qianyu never bothered to discuss these things with me. I was always completely shut out from their world of wealth. When I face Qianyu in a moment, he won't even try to reason with me, especially about the truth regarding Ji. I might seem like the one in control here, but in reality, I am always the one being chosen. Today, the Wen family's villa was decorated to look incredibly cozy. Qianyu and I got out of the car. I reached for the back seat to grab the box with the key, but Qianyu reached out and stopped me. "Let's not take this box out today. I already prepared a different gift for Mom." What could even be inside a keeper box anyway? He probably figured I just bought some cheap new clothes to put in it. And since Xiaoze is so naive, if he blurted things out and our parents found out about the keeper, they would be very unhappy. I said nothing, leaving the box behind in the car. As Qianyu and I walked through the door, we immediately saw his mother chatting happily with Ji. Xiaoze was right beside them, slicing some fresh fruit, while his father was busy doing something in the kitchen. Xiaoze smiled and greeted us. "Hey, you guys are here. Come over and have some fruit." Ji Bing stood up to greet me. "Zhongchun." "Hello," I replied politely. Qianyu said nothing. Since we were at her house, I couldn't really call out Li to avoid embarrassing Auntie. "Happy birthday to you." Seeing Li Jibing standing there, I felt like when Xiaoze was deliberately ignoring me. I just walked over to greet Qianyu's mother. The family gathering Qianyu promised was certainly crowded. Wen's mother smiled to break the tension. "All right, everyone is here. Let's eat." "Zhongchun, why haven't you visited us lately?" "Auntie, I want to buy some paintings but can't decide. I was hoping you could give me some advice." Li Jibing was the son of an old family friend, so she couldn't make her rejection too obvious, hoping Li Jibing would take the hint and stay out of her daughter's business in the future. Li Jibing didn't even blink, acting like he hadn't heard a word. "In a few days, you and Qianyu should go to France and bring back a few paintings for me. I trust your taste, but who actually goes to France with her is still undecided." He probably figured if Qianyu broke up with me and took him instead, her parents wouldn't be able to stop it. Wen's dad brought a bowl of soup from the kitchen, and dinner started. We sat around the dining table eating. Just before eating, when Xiaoze brought out the cake he made himself, Qianyu softly called out to me, "Zhongchun, come closer and let's blow out the candles together." I shook my head, politely declining. "I'm not feeling well." "Go blow them out with your brother." She assumed I was still throwing a tantrum over the other day, so she didn't push. Then key classmate Li company, so he doesn't feel left out. I quietly watched them, a family of 4 blowing out the candles together, with Li Jibing cheering them on from the side. When Xiaoze pulled out his gift from Mrs. Wen. "Happy birthday, Mom. Happy birthday, Mom. May you stay young and beautiful forever." It was a beautiful, deep green kippo dress, The craftsmanship was incredibly exquisite. The fabric was exactly the same as the last one. Mother Wen absolutely loved it. Standing right beside her, Li Jibing explained how rare this fabric was, and how much trouble Qianyu went through to get it, commissioning an old master tailor to make it. Yes, that is true, auntie. Qianyu spent so much time searching for this, before the master tailor finally agreed to make it. She was running herself ragged these past few days. She personally handled every single one of that old master's demands. To satisfy them, I offered to help, but she insisted on doing it all herself. On the surface, Li Jibing was praising Qianyu's dedication, but secretly, he was sending me a clear message, rubbing in the fact they'd been together this entire time. Looking envious, Li Jibing sighed. Auntie, anyone who gets to be your family must be so lucky. With every single bite, he showered praise on Father Wen's cooking. Both parents beamed, clearly delighted by his constant flattery. They kept telling him to eat more. I just kept eating in silence. I was too clumsy with words to play along. I watched Li Jibing with cold detachment, observing his cozy interactions with Mother Wen. Perhaps a son-in-law like him actually brings harmony to a family. I stared down at my plate. Beneath the dining table, Qianyu suddenly squeezed my rough hand tightly. I did not pull away. Instead, I only felt that old hangnail on my middle finger starting to throb with pain again. It was fine. I had already pulled it out myself. It was just a phantom pain. Mother Wen thoroughly enjoyed this kind of empty flattery, thanking Li Jibing for coming over to celebrate her birthday. While completely ignoring Qianyu's own thoughtfulness, Qianyu had prepared a set of jade jewelry. Mom, Zhongchun and I also have a gift to give you. Immediately, Li Jibing began enthusiastically praising the jade, gushing about how wonderful jade is. Auntie, this gorgeous jade necklace matches that elegant kipo of yours perfectly. The moment I laid eyes on this stunning set, I knew right away that you would absolutely love it. They make it sound like Li Jibing handpicked everything. Deep down, I sneezed. When money is actually involved, they always plan everything out. I have no right to join in. Just sit back and watch. But they've misunderstood one thing. I am only frugal, not cheap. Mother Wen frowned. Li Jibing had overstepped, trying to cozy up like this without reading the room. Left her daughter's actual boyfriend with zero chance to speak. To an outsider, they'd think she and Li Jibing were the couple. Mother Wen cast a disapproving glance at Qi. Yet of all people, Zhongchun was someone who didn't know how to flatter. Mother Wen was deeply frustrated by my lack of initiative. She turned back to look at me, only to find I wasn't jealous at all. No resentment in my eyes. My behavior was perfectly poised and polite, completely unshaken. With a smile, she asked Zhongchun, "How are your studies? Qianyu mentioned your sister got into Nationalist University." I had no intention of but Mother Wen was a sharp woman. She knew when Xiaozhe inviting Li Jibing to dinner today meant something more. "Zhongchun, what was that box you had earlier?" The maid had mentioned I brought a gift, but Qianyu made me leave it behind. Mother Wen assumed it was for her, thinking Qianyu found it too cheap for them to see, which was why she stopped me from bringing it. "It's just a small trinket. I'll grab it in a bit." But Father Wen misunderstood too, thinking I was worried they'd look down on my cheap gift. Too embarrassed to present it, he spoke up warmly. "Your aunt always loved those little handmade trinkets the most. If you could make her a small ornament, you will definitely wear it daily." With things put this way, I can no longer refuse. Seeing this, when Qianyu went to grab the box I brought, meanwhile Li Jibing just sat there, waiting to see what kind of treasure I could bring out, assuming that in the end it was still Qianyu's money. When Qianyu walked back in, cradling the box, when Xiaozhe recognized it as the box, the one that previously held the key, he looked at me with confusion, but I showed no reaction. I pulled out the white gloves Fang Xingxing had put inside. Slipping them on, I unfolded the kipo for his mother. It was an elegant, azure-colored kipo, adorned with several exquisitely crafted frog closures in a phoenix tail design. They precisely covered up the loose thread I had accidentally snagged. The matching color tones of the embroidery gently softened the sharp edges of the ink brush, giving the kipo a much richer sense of depth. This was designed by Fang, and also, it was crafted through sleepless nights by our top peers at Haida. The ultimate result of our collective hard work, featuring original art by a national gold medalist painter, embroidery handcrafted by a master of Su embroidery, tailored in a style from a generational kipo family. The entire restored kipo exuded a timeless, classical elegance. We redesigned it to match its original, authentic state, free from even a hint of modern industrial design. When Xiaozhe stared in disbelief, asking, "This kipo, Brother Chun, did you actually fix it?" It wasn't that they hadn't thought of adding embroidery, but the timeline was simply too tight. No master tailor would take on the job. He and his sister had discussed it for hours, and had to settle for their second option. They had to accept Li Jibing's suggestion, commissioning a tailor to rush make a brand new one. I gave a nod. "Auntie, first, I really must apologize to you. This is the real gift when Xiaozhe bought for you. I accidentally snagged it earlier, which is why we're presenting it like this. Wen's mom nodded gently. She clearly loved it. Gently tracing the embroidery, she asked, "Is this Sue embroidery?" "The needlework is exquisite. One of the students at our school did the embroidery. And the painting, it was also done by a traditional art student at our school. I just made a few small tweaks to the design. I hope you like it." Mother Wen held the cheongsam up against her body. She loved it, leaving Wen Qianyu quite surprised. She whispered to me, "Why didn't you tell me you had this idea? Then I wouldn't have stressed out for so many days." I didn't even spare him half a glance. Instead, I pulled another item out of the box. "You can consider that cheongsam to be a gift from Wen Shan, but this one is my actual gift to you." I reached in and opened the black velvet bag. Mother Wen pulled out the gold watch inside. At first glance, it looked exactly like the one her grandfather used to own. I spent ages hunting through jewelry stores for this classic design. This one can easily pass as the real thing. The gold watch was finally back. Mother Wen and Wen Xiaozhe were absolutely thrilled. But when Qianyu was utterly terrified, in a calm and polite tone, I said, "About this gold watch. First of all, I am so sorry. This watch is not the original one from before, but it is the closest match I could possibly find." On that day, when Qianyu got into a car accident, in that critical moment, I really had no money on me, so I was forced to sell the original gold watch to pay for Wen Qianyu's emergency room fees. I failed to explain this clearly to you right away, and that caused so many misunderstandings for your family. I am deeply sorry. Here is the sales receipt from when I sold that watch. Please have a look. I stood up and laid the receipt down on the table, and bowed to apologize to the Wen parents. "Now, I am returning it to you. Please, Mr. Li, go outside and help me explain this to my classmates. Tell them I did not steal anyone's gold watch." Wen Xiaozhe gasped, in shock. "Brother Chun did not steal anything. My sister was the one who misunderstood him all along. He is simply trying to prove his innocence here." Tucked inside the receipt was a $6 bill, which I specifically exchanged for at the jewelry store. Added together, it was just enough. Turns out, the seller of that gold watch wanted that exact amount. Since Wen's mother was my elder, she did not hold my recent snobbish behavior against me. Instead, she reached out and grabbed my hand, slipping the gold watch onto my wrist. "There is no misunderstanding to speak of. Things from so long ago are in the past. This gold watch was always meant for you anyway. Whatever you do with it is completely up to you." Giving the gold watch to me, this was her blatant and obvious way of supporting me. It was a clear statement that she was backing me up. She clearly made it known she disliked Li Ji. I did not decline, simply saying, "Thank you, Auntie." Li Jibing was certainly no fool. Her face had already crumpled in sheer embarrassment. "This Zhang Chang is so difficult." I was marking my territory right in front of Wen Qin. When Li Jibing tried to offer a gift, Wen's mother shut her down immediately, with the rejection being made so painfully obvious to her. Staying would only make her Li Jibing unable to save face any longer. She stood up and left. I did not stay much longer either, politely declining the offer from Kenia's parents when they asked me to stay. Wen's mother was still worried, but Wen's father held her to ease her mind. The kids need to resolve their own issues in life. We elders can only help them for a moment, not forever. If they solve this, it is meant to be. If they cannot, then let them move on. They are the ones who have to live their lives, so we elders cannot make decisions for them. Wen's mother thought it over repeatedly and decided to let it go. She only hoped the two of us would make it. On the way back, I gently touched the gold watch on my wrist, telling Wen Qianyu that we should drive to our old rented apartment. I forgot some things there. Hearing this, Wen Qianyu instantly looked guilty. She listened to me and drove into the neighborhood. No one had lived here in ages. Ever since Wen Qianyu exposed her real identity in front of me, she has not set foot in here again. An old house like this gathers dust. Wen Qianyu quietly placed her key on the cabinet near the entryway door, only to see that another key was already sitting right there. It, too, was completely buried under the dust. It must have been sitting there for a very long time. It was mine. Wen Qianyu felt her heart sink instantly. I did not care about the dust. Back then, whenever she returned from business trips, I would always rush over to clean the place. But looking back now, why did she ever need me to clean up? Every single housekeeper at her family mansion was far more professional than I ever was. Yet when Qianyu just let this apartment sit here and gather dust, when it comes down to it, she never actually cared about this place. Ignoring the grime, I leaned back on the dusty sofa, sitting in the exact same posture as on Dragon Boat Festival. When Qianyu hesitated, then reluctantly sat down right next to me. "Zhang Chun, let us get out of here. It is way too dirty." "I am sorry. Didn't we agree that the misunderstanding about your gold watch, that the past was already in the past? Why are you bringing it up again today?" I unlocked my phone screen and played the video directly in front of her. "That day I asked if you were still keeping secrets from me, and you said it was over. Yet today, I received a shocking video of you and Li Ji." When Qianyu finished watching the video with a deep frown, and instantly shook her head. "It is not like that. Zhang Chun, please do not misunderstand. Li Jibing only said she knew a highly skilled artisan. I only met up with her over the last couple of days, And when Xiaozhe was right there too, I did not have any contact with him at all, thinking that I had misunderstood her and Li Jibing these past 2 days. When Kanyu grew extremely anxious and panicked, I did not bother to argue with her. I got up and picked up 2 dusty candies from the table, and handed one of them over to when Kanyu, utterly confused, unwrapped the milk candy. She popped the snow-white candy into her mouth. It really did taste better than the ones Song Mingyu's group offered. Only there was a faint, dusty taste to it. When Keanu still didn't understand the story behind those 2 candies, I closed my eyes, savoring that dry, dusty flavor. That day, I went back to school and nearly fainted from low blood sugar. Li Jibing handed me those exact 2 milk candies to eat, claiming they were a gift his girlfriend brought back from France. Inside, when Kanyu realized these 2 candies spelled disaster, I turned around and saw him waiting for you outside the door, clutching those 2 candies. I followed the 2 of you, walking past all the scenic spots on campus. In the end, he got into your car. Looking back at myself then, with just those 2 candies, a $25 pair of shoes, and muddy puddles everywhere, all of that would become my lifelong sore spot. When Kanyu panicked, Jung Chun had seen everything. Her secret meetings with Li Jung Chun knew it all. He knew everything. Listen, let me explain. I'm listening. Look into my calm, open eyes. 1,000 words choked in Wen Qianyu's chest. It felt suffocating. She couldn't just say sorry. Jiang Chun, I have absolutely nothing to do with him anymore. I've already made things clear with him. If you don't like it, I'll never see him again. I simply stated the facts. There's no need. Wen Qianyu, how you make friends, and to what extent, is entirely your business. My sheer calmness terrified Wen Jiang Chun. Please, don't talk like that. You are my boyfriend. You're supposed to control me. Restricting my contact with other men is your right. Wen Qianyu quickly admitted her mistake. Jiang Chun, from now on I'll change whatever you say, okay? I just wanted to ask, when Shin Qiaoning found me by the roadside, what were you doing with Li Ji? While when Xiaozhe was busy hovering around Li Ji, I wasn't sad at all. Without Wen Qianyu to connect us, when Xiaozhe and I have zero connection. But hearing Wen Qianyu talk about our supposed future, I suddenly lost all hope. Life is way too long to spend it unable to reach her whenever things go wrong. Am I always going to worry about another Li Ji? Wen Qianyu, you always do this. You never talk to me when things happen. Then you apologize the second I find out, just to stop me from breaking up with you. I tried my absolute best to accept you, but I get tired too. I can't pretend everything is fine anymore. Wen Qianyu, let's break up. Let's end this. I've given it my all. Even if I lie to myself, I still can't accept this version of you. No amount of money can heal this hurt. I can earn my own money. I'm not afraid of the grind. But my ability to love has been completely drained. Her eyes turned red as she cried out. No, I don't agree. I can explain about Li Ji. I was just feeling so lost back then. That's why I listened to Shen Qiao's terrible advice. I just didn't realize how much I actually needed you. I let out a bitter laugh. Shen Qiao and Wu Yu were truly made for each other. One told her to go cheat on me. The other insulted me for not being good enough. She tried to clear the air with flimsy excuses, downplaying her relationship with Li Jiangshun. I shouldn't have doubted you from the start. I never should have done this. But we only went out for dinner a few times. But even she couldn't keep a straight face saying that. Aside from spending the night together, she did everything a girlfriend would do. Even the guy was convinced they were dating. Yet now, she claims nothing ever happened. I am so sick of this endless cycle. I want to know more of this sickening drama with Wen Qi. Breaking up was our only real way out. Time to move on and forget each other. It is time to let each other go. I just wanted to find someone normal. Just a simple, ordinary person to grow old with. None of it matters anymore. We were together for so long, yet deep down, you still looked down on me. First with the gold watch, and now with the cheap. It would have taken just one simple conversation. But you never believed I actually had the ability to fix things right alongside you. You always said taking charity makes people look down on us. But the only one looking down on me this whole time was you. You took 3 years of my devotion and my heart, and looked down on me when we hit rock bottom. I slaved away, doing the dirty work nobody else would touch. Shen Qiaoning, who I only met a month ago, could actually see my worth and potential. Yet when Qianyu, after 3 whole years together, didn't believe I could fix a simple dress, she would rather go the long way around. She would rather blame me than ask me a single question. When Qianyu was panicked on the verge of tears, her voice started to tremble. Zheng Cheng, I cut her off. My voice cold. We were never meant to be. Let's just end it here. Take this gold watch and give it back to your mother. We had guests today. I couldn't refuse to accept it then, but keeping it doesn't mean I forgive you. Your parents have done nothing wrong to me. I couldn't humiliate them in public like that. I took off the gold watch and placed it on the coffee table. Then I stood up to walk away. When Qianyu snapped out of her daze, she rushed after me, grabbing my arm. No, Zhong Chen, I don't agree to this. We are not breaking up. Blame me all you want. Hate me if you must, but I am not letting you go. I just gave her a calm, understanding smile. I don't blame you, and I don't hate you. You just made a choice out of self. I understand you. So now, it is my turn to do what is best for me. I hope you can understand why I am slowly walking away. When Keanu did not try to stop me. By the time when Keanu snapped out of it to chase me, I was already long gone. He quickly drove to the school, desperate to find me. This could not just end like this. As long as he refused to break up and behaved his best from now on. Once Jiang Cheng's anger faded, he would stop trying to break up.